and directing you to the right place for a restroom. So I know that'll be important at some point this evening. Before we begin the official meeting, I want to thank Superintendent Dan Hornet. Superintendent, I know he's here right over there. The Orange County School Board Chair, Darwin Dawson, is right here. Orange County High School Principal Nick Sedano, Nick over there. And all of the staff at Orange County Schools who helped make tonight possible. We have outstanding leadership. We have outstanding leadership in our schools division, and we are grateful for their partnership and support. I also want to thank our Orange County Sheriff Jason Smith and our Orange County Sheriff deputies. They are here to make sure we are safe and secure, and we appreciate their support and assistance this evening, as well as our county fire and EMS staff who are supporting us this evening for this meeting. I would respectfully ask, before we get started here, that y'all silence your phones. Take a little look, put it on vibrate. Please silence your phones. That will help us with everybody being able to be heard. Okay, there will be individuals that come in throughout the evening, those that are getting off work at 5 o'clock, maybe get here at 5:20 or 6 o'clock, or what have you. So please make yourself as comfortable as you can this evening. People will be coming in and out. Feel free to go out and use the restroom, etc. We want you to do what you need to do. We're going to keep going throughout the evening, and you may see one or more of us get up for a bathroom break as well. So with that, I call the March 24 meeting of the Orange County Board of Supervisors to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I want to provide some introductions and a joint meeting overview and process overview for everybody before we get into the official business. Again, welcome to our Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll be shortly joining with our Planning Commission for a joint meeting. I thank you for attending this important meeting for our Orange County community. We appreciate you taking your valuable time to join us this evening and look forward to your public participation and comments. Before we proceed with the adoption of the agenda, I would like to introduce the Orange County Board of Supervisors, Planning Commission members, and Orange County staff. Again, I am Bryan Nichol, and I serve as a District 5 member of the board and as chair. My colleagues on the board are Supervisor Ed Van Hoven, District 2 Supervisor and Vice Chair of the board, immediately to my right. Next to Supervisor Van Hoven is Jason Capel. Supervisor Capel hails from District 1. Next up is Supervisor Crystal Coleman from District 4. And next up is Supervisor Keith Marshall from District 3. We are joined today by the Orange County Planning Commission for purposes of the joint meeting of the Board of Supervisors and Planning Commission. Introducing chair of the committee. Next to him is Commissioner Brandon Van Hoven, District 2. Next up, sorry, I had that in reverse order, didn't I? Sorry about that, Aaron. Next up is Farron Raines, District 4 Planning Commissioner. And Brandon Van Hoven, our Commissioner for District 2, follows. Commissioner for District 1 is John Rett. Next up, I want to recognize Glenda Paul, our County Administrator, over at this table over here. And maybe I should have said this at the beginning, because hold your applause until the end, and make it go a little quicker. Stephanie Straub is our Deputy County Administrator. Jenny Carpenter, Assistant County Administrator, right here in front. Latoya Smith, Chief Deputy Clerk. Latoya over there, and Amy Newman, who will be helping us out with our timing, and as we get into public comment. In addition, we have Allison Simpson, who is Allison used to, I always said Deputy Clerk, but she's now serving with our Planning Commission. So, Allison, great to have you here. Michelle Nichol, our Director of Development Services, as well, is here. And Josh Frederick, our Zoning Administrator, is here. So, we have a whole host of other staff that are from our senior leadership team from the county, and they are around. If you need anything, please see one of our staff members. There's some back here. Raise your hand. Anybody who can help out, if you need something, please ask them. Let me briefly cover how we're going to move forward this evening. As I mentioned a minute ago, we're not going to take a formal break or recess. You may see one or more of us take a short bathroom break. We are recording this meeting, and anything we miss live, personally, for us, we'll be able to review later, and we'll make our breaks very short, just in and out. The next steps are as follows. The board will adopt its agenda and act on its consent agenda. Then the Planning Commission will open its meeting and adopt its agenda and determine a quorum. After doing so, the board and the commission will conduct its joint meeting to receive a presentation from Dominion Energy, also known as ValleyLink, and they're right here at this table. And we're grateful that they're here to present to us. The board and Planning Commission will then have the opportunity to ask questions of Dominion Energy, ValleyLink, and provide any comments. Then the board and commission will embark on really the most important part of this meeting, and that is to receive comments from citizens during what is called the public comment period. I'll cover some of the details on the public comment process when we get to that point, but for now, if you want to speak, please go out to the lobby, sign your name and address, pick up a number, like one of these, and we will be calling you down via your number for speaking purposes. But make sure you get a number. That's how you'll be called down to speak. All right. Members of the board, next up, and we'll just conduct a short part of our board meeting. Members of the board, next up is the adoption of the board agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Coleman and a second from Supervisor Campbell. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes 5-0 to adopt the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Supervisor Van Hoven moved. Do I have a second? I have a second from Supervisor Marshall. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you. I call to order the planning commission meeting and determine that there is a quorum. All 5 members of the commission are present. Next, I'd like to adopt the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Take a vote. All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion to adopt the agenda passes 5-0. With that, Chairman Nichol, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman DiPasquale. I appreciate that, and thank you to the Planning Commission for being here. Now that the board and the Planning Commission have properly called their respective meetings to order and have duly adopted the agendas, we will move forward with the joint meeting of the board and commission. On item 4 of our agenda, and I believe that's item number 3 on the Planning Commission agenda, we have special presentations and appearances. ValleyLink Dominion Energy representatives will deliver a presentation on the proposed Joshua Falls to Heat transmission line project. To our guests from Dominion Energy and ValleyLink, thank you for attending our meeting. I'll call on, I believe, Mr. Andre May to introduce the ValleyLink Dominion Energy representatives attending tonight's meetings and starting with their presentation.
Good evening, Chair Nichol, Chair DiPasquale. Good evening to the commission, to the Board of Supervisors. My name is Andre Renee. I am the Stormwater Affairs Representative for Orange County Dominion Energy. And it is my pleasure tonight to introduce my colleagues also from Dominion Energy. Mr. Maguire, Mr. Bryan, Mr. Mathe, and Mr. George James. We will be presenting to you on behalf of ValleyLink on the 765 Joshua Falls East project. And as we begin, we want to call on Mr. Sykes for his remarks, and he will be followed by Mr. Maguire.
Before you start, I just want to make sure, go ahead and speak if you could, just introduce yourself. Okay, there we go. I think, yeah, just make sure you speak loud. Everybody hear up there? A little louder? Okay, so make sure you speak up. It's going to be important for all these citizens in here. Thank you.
So good evening, my name is Bryan. I'm Vice President of Engineering and Construction for the Dominion Energy Electric Transmission Organization. My colleagues and I are here representing ValleyLink Transmission, Dominion's joint venture with First Energy Transmission and Transource, which is a division of American Electric Power. We appreciate you arranging the opportunity for us to discuss ValleyLink's Joshua Falls East transmission project. Before we get started, I wanted to take this opportunity to provide a bit of context, but also to reiterate that we appreciate the county's involvement. Routing new transmission infrastructure is an involved process. Being here to answer your questions is welcome, and we trust we will be valuable for you as well. At Dominion Energy, we connect everything we do to our mission and values, ensuring we provide the reliable, affordable, and increasingly clean energy that powers our customers every day. Reliability means we are dependable, consistent, and that our systems meet our customers' high standards. It's a 24/7 promise that we make to the communities that we serve. Undoubtedly, we are in a transformational period when it comes to energy. Demand for electricity in Virginia is rising faster than we've seen in decades. In fact, we haven't experienced growth like this since World War II. Data centers, advanced manufacturing, electric vehicles, and population growth are all driving that demand. Simply making the light switch work is no longer par for the course. In fact, projections show that in Virginia, we could need twice as much electricity by 2035. It has taken Dominion over 100 years to reach a peak demand of more than 25,000 megawatts, and we are on course to see that double in less than 15 years. And those forecast projections are materializing. We have realized demand more than forecast for each of the last 5 years. In fact, 8 of the 9 system peaks that occurred in 2025 were above the 2025 summer weather forecast. And 2026 has been no different, with new records set in January and February. That kind of growth requires major investment in energy infrastructure to keep our grid reliable, our economy competitive, and to ensure energy security for all of our customers. To meet that challenge, as has been mentioned, Dominion Energy partnered with First Energy Transmission and TransSource in creating a joint venture called ValleyLink Transmission Company. Adam Maguire is our lead project manager supporting ValleyLink, and momentarily I'm going to ask him to provide some more details on ValleyLink and the Joshua Polsky project. I would like to stress that our commitment to community involvement is one of the cornerstones of project development. Listening, learning, and incorporating feedback into how our routes are developed is an essential part of the process. Later this week, we will wrap up our first round of community open houses, where thus far we have engaged more than 3,000 individuals, with hundreds more interactions happening every day via phone and email. Again, we are happy to be here tonight and answer your questions. With that, Adam will take you through a short presentation before we continue with answering your questions. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. Adam?
Hey, good evening, board. Good evening, planning commission. Before we get started, do you all hear me okay? Perfect. And is there a slideshow? I know I can't see the screen, but do you see slides?
Yes.
Excellent. We need slide 1 or slide 2?
Adam, we just see you.
There's slide 2.
There's no slides. No slides over here. Just you. There's just you.
Are there supposed to be slides over
Okay.
there?
Yeah, there's slides now. Got it.
Yep. Is it up there?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we are good to go. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you all. So, as Brandon mentioned, we are currently seeing the fastest electric load demand in the United States since right after the World War II period. We have not seen growth like this in the electric space, for 7 decades or more. Which is why we're here today with this project. There are many other electric projects that are in the works, or are actually happening right now as electric utilities try to meet the demand that the grid is being placed under. As you're probably aware of, data centers are driving a large portion of the new load on the grid. There's also been increased electrification, electric vehicles, and some kind of population growth that's also driven some of the load increases that we're seeing. By 2035, as Brandon mentioned, we expect to see almost double the amount of power used in the community area versus what we saw in 2020. And so that's just to set the scene a little bit on the state of the industry and where we are right now. I'll go through a fairly short presentation on the project itself for everyone out here. I know the board has questions they want to ask. I know you all have comments that you want to make. So if I don't go into enough detail for you, I'm happy to answer any questions you have afterwards. We also have presentations that are loaded up on our website that spell this out in a 30-minute presentation if you want to dig into the nuts and bolts a little more. We'll also have open houses. We have in March, we'll have one in June. So you can always come out and talk to us one-on-one, and we love those conversations as well. So just a little bit about ValleyLink, right? What is it? I know 6 months ago, no one had ever heard of this thing. So ValleyLink is a joint venture that was formed between Dominion Energy, AEP, and First Energy. And I know for those of you all who don't live in the electric utility space every day, we are 3 of the large transmission owners in the Mid-Atlantic. Right? So First Energy owns a lot of utilities and transmission lines up in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio. AEP is is really out to our west, so they're out in Ohio, southwestern Virginia, West Virginia. And then obviously you're probably familiar with Dominion, who operates primarily in Virginia, eastern North Carolina, and down in South Carolina. So this was kind of a joint project between three of the large transmission companies to embark on a large transmission expansion. Right? There's a southern project, there might be a northern project that some of you all have heard about as well. So that's kind of the genesis of ValleyLink and who we are. But if you see us, the five of us here, we are all Dominion Energy employees. So I know this question comes up. ValleyLink doesn't actually have any employees. The employees are people who are employed by Dominion or by First Energy or by AEP. And we're working together to try to bring this project down. Just a little bit of context on ValleyLink. So high-level clip notes about the project. I think probably everyone here is familiar with it to some extent. But ValleyLink is looking to build a 115-mile, 765 kV, so that's 765,000 volts, electric transmission line from Campbell County down near Lynchburg, Virginia, up to Culpeper County, just to the north here. This project was awarded in the 2024 PJM open window process. I'll touch on that in a little bit more detail in a second here. This project still requires state corporation commission approval. So any electric transmission project in the state of Virginia over a certain voltage needs to go to the SEC, or the Virginia State Corporation Commission, for approval. The SEC makes sure that any transmission projects that come through are in the interest of the people of Virginia, right? That's their job. Their job is to protect the ratepayers of the state and to make sure that when projects are being proposed to them, that those projects are in the interest of the citizens. So a project like this or any other transmission project over a certain voltage cannot move forward without SEC approval. A little bit of backstory while we're on the slide on why this project was proposed, who PJM is, and why they awarded it. So PJM is the Mid-Atlantic grid operator. And again, unless you live and breathe electric utilities, I wouldn't expect anyone here to really know that. But they operate the Mid-Atlantic grid, so that's 14 states, of which Virginia is one of them. So you have states like Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, parts of Illinois, that are part of PJM. They're the largest grid operator in the United States. And to build high voltage transmission lines like this one, all high voltage transmission lines require PJM approval. So back in the summer of 2024, PJM was doing their normal planning cycle. So they look out 5 years into the future. So they were looking at the year 2029. And PJM collects information from all the utilities who serve customers. So, they collect it from the electric co-ops like CMEC or Rappahannock Electric. They collect it from the Dominion Energy's distribution team. They collect it from all the companies that deliver power across their system. And they say, all right, where is your electric demand gone in the last few years? Where are you projecting it to go? Based off the growth you're seeing, based off the customer contracts you're signing, what is electric load going to look like in 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029? And so, at this time, in the summer of 2024, when they were looking at 2029, what we saw was that you were seeing a lot of load growth in what we call Eastern PJM. So it would be in Virginia, in Maryland, and most of the generation that was available is in what we call Western PJM. It's in the Ohio River Valley. It's kind of on the border of Ohio and West Virginia. Just for a little bit of context, there's a lot of old coal power stations out there. There's a lot of natural gas that's been built. And there's a lot of new wind that's been added to Ohio and West Virginia. And if you look at a map of the PJM grid, there's not very many high voltage lines that run east to west. So what happens is you end up having a source of generation over here in Western PJM, the western part of the Mid-Atlantic grid. But all your load growth, or most of your load growth, is occurring in Eastern PJM. And there's not very many ways to get the power from where it is to where it needs to go. So in that particular 2024 window, there were a couple projects proposed to extend the 765 kV grid. So there's a large 765 kV grid out in Ohio and West Virginia. To extend that grid to what we call Eastern PJM, so we can access the power that's in the Ohio River Valley and bring it to Central Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland via the northern line, where all the load growth is occurring. So that's just a little bit of context in PJM 101, kind of how we got to how this project came to be. I'm happy to go into more details on PJM questions that we have afterwards. So, slide. Yep. So this is just a map of the initial routes that we created. If you come to the open houses or if you've been on our website, I'm sure many of you or all of you have probably seen this map in the more detailed GIS versions that we have. Actually, we'll hop to the next slide now, talk about routing. So that map was developed kind of with as much detailed routing as we can do. And there's a number of factors that we try to balance when we're routing a transmission line. And to be honest, routing greenfield lines like this is by far the hardest thing that we do with electric transmission. When we're looking at the grid, we look at the grid, and we know that by 2029, a lot of our existing transmission lines are going to be overloading if we don't get this line built, if we don't get additional transmission reinforcement. And from a grid perspective, that makes sense. But from a personal perspective, we understand that when you're trying to build a new transmission line where there isn't one, that's not just a technical problem, that's personal. So we trying to balance the impacts and impact as few people as possible is extremely important to us. And obviously, you see everyone out here, it's very hard to do, and there will always be some impacts. What we try to do in the routing process is to minimize those impacts and balance those impacts as much as we can. And so what we're looking at when we're routing a transmission line is how close are we to residences. Right? We try to keep a line, generally speaking, as far from residences as we can. How many parcels are we impacting? Ideally, we want to impact as few landowners, as few parcels as possible. We look at environmental impacts. There are obviously some areas that are more environmentally sensitive than other areas, so try to minimize environmental impacts. We look at historical resources, right? Trying to keep it away from core battlefield areas, trying to keep the line away from other particular sensitive historic resources. All of that goes into this detailed routing analysis that our routing team does. For this line, it's about 115 miles. Our routing team evaluated over 12,000 miles of line, and that's really just phase one of the routing process. So the open houses that we've been having in March are really to collect feedback from as many people as we can, because the initial routing that we do is based off publicly available data, right? It's based off county GIS sets, it's based off data that we can see, but until we talk to people, we don't know the ins and outs of the property, right? Nobody knows properties like the people who live there. And so what we're trying to find out from those open houses is, are there certain routes that have higher impacts that we can't see from the raw numbers, right? Are there certain routes that are, that might have environmental impacts or historical impacts that we didn't pick up on from the public data sets, right? So any information that we can get from the public, from counties, from landowners, that we can incorporate into our routing is super important. So what will happen for our routing moving forward is we'll take all the info that we get in these March open houses and all the conversations that we have over the next couple of months, and we'll refine our routes, try to make adjustments where we can to minimize impacts. And then we'll come back in June with a more refined set of routes. And some of the route segments that you see on our maps will probably have dropped off by then based off the feedback that we hear. And then we'll have another set of open houses in June. We'll kind of use those to determine which route we'll submit to the SEC as the preferred route, and then if there are any alternate routes or route segments that we'll be submitting to the SEC. So broadly, that's how the routing process works, and those are the kind of things that we're trying to evaluate. So a little bit about the right-of-way and the structures themselves. So you see kind of a sample structure on the slide right now. These are lattice steel towers. They're between 135 and 160 feet tall. Right-of-ways 200 feet wide on average. These would look similar to the 500 kV towers that you might see, which are kind of the large transmission towers that you would see around this area of Virginia. That's 500 kV is Dominion Energy's highest voltage structures. Currently, we built out a lot of them back in the 1960s and 1970s. There's some that come from Orange. And so these 765 kV structures are on average between 20 and 30 feet taller than those 500 kV structures. The right-of-ways are marginally wider, just because you need a little bit more clearance between the phases, between your conductors to the ground, because you're operating at higher voltage. So at the higher voltage, a little bit more clearance you need. to the ground between the conductors themselves. So that's a little bit about that. And again, happy to dig into more details on these if you guys have any questions. This map shows a little bit of a zoomed-in area for Orange County. You'll see a few different routes and route variations that kind of come primarily through the eastern side of the county. On average, the average route is about 20 miles through Orange. It depends a little bit based off which variation you're looking at. And if we jump to the next slide, you'll see a little bit of information on our GeoVoice tool. So this is the tool that's on our website. It's an interactive GIS viewer, so you can pull that out, look at any particular address, measure from an address to whatever route might be closest to your property. This is something that we use for, I think, almost every greenfield and mini project I've been involved with. It's a useful live tool, so as we make updates to routes, we'll make them on GeoVoice. So if a route segment disappears sometime in the next couple of months, because we receive feedback that route segment should be removed, it'll be pulled from the website, and next time you log in, you'll see that gone. You'll see a note on the website about that being removed. So just something to keep an eye on as we move through the process. And then I know we touched a little bit on community engagement already, but community engagement is a super important part of the process for us. We have our last set of March open houses coming up on Thursday of this month. So that was sort of round one of the open houses. So we're trying to meet in every single county, talk with as many residents as we possibly can, to get feedback on the lines, to understand if there are certain segments that are more impactful, and to hear the community feedback. And every comment we get gets packaged up and submitted to the State Corporation Commission. Part of what we're trying to do as well is explain how the SEC process works. Right? We understand that transmission projects are just not something that really anybody outside of us has to think about very often. So we want to make sure that people understand how you can participate in the SEC process. It is an open public process, and try to provide as much education about both the project and about what the process looks like as we can. So on that front, we'll have another round of open houses in June, and then from an SEC standpoint, we'll be looking to file the project with the State Corporation Commission in September, which I should have made the slide there. So process-wise, next round of open houses in June, we'll look to file with the State Corporation Commission in September of this year. SEC process normally takes about a year, so that's a year of hearings. The SEC typically has their hearings down in Richmond. It's possible that they might have local hearings as well. We see that sometimes on bigger projects. As part of the SEC process, anybody can join that process. It's an open public process. There's an official process, and we'll post on the website when we file the case with the SEC. We'll send out mailers at that point, and we'll post on the website, how to go to the SEC's website, and if you want to join the case, the SEC will kind of lay out on the website how we want to do that. If the SEC approves the project, we expect a decision in September of 2027. Then we have about a year for material procurement to start requiring right away. So we look to move to construction in the fall of 2028, and then PJM has asked us to have this project in service by the end of 2029. Again, just for great purposes, this project is urgently needed from a transmission perspective to take a lot of the loading that we have on existing lines and mitigate the overloads that we see on those lines. And that brings us to the end of the presentation. So at this point, I got my colleague Mathe with me, and we'll be happy to take any questions you might have. Greg is the director of our routing and outreach team. So between the two of us, we hope that we can answer any questions that you might have for us tonight.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, and we will have some questions, so I will start with Supervisor Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman Nichol. I have a few questions just to get us started.
Sure.
You mentioned that you, over the past month, have had numerous information sessions and you've met with, I believe you said, thousands of people.
That's correct.
Out of those thousands of people who are directly impacted, or out of those thousands of people, how many felt this was a good project and wanted support of it?
That's a tricky question.
It's not tricky, actually.
So it's a fair question, and I would say, for greenfield projects like this, generally when people come out about a project, they have concerns about the project, they have questions about the project, so generally I'd say the majority of people we hear from have questions or concerns. And then you have a small percentage who say, I love transmission lines. Let's call that 2%.
Okay, so another question I have is about the Yeet substation. Why was the Yeet substation location originally planned for Fauquier County moved or proposed to be moved to the current location in Culpeper County?
Sure, that's a great question. So when we originally proposed this project with PJM, if you look at the old PJM maps from the summer of 2024, you're 100% right. You'll see that location for the Yeet was in Fauquier. As we got into the detailed routing process, that northern portion of the project that's about to Fauquier was the highest impact part of the process, right? We were closest to the most homes. The line was doing a lot of squiggles to get around the houses, just because the further north you got, the more dense the developed area you got. So your impacts to property owners were just much higher in that northern portion of the project versus some of the southern areas. So as we started working through the routing process, we were looking for opportunities to reduce the impacts as much as we could. Right, so if you look at the original route also cut further east to begin with, to Hanover, and then kind of came up some of our existing corridors. When we studied that, the impacts, and what we're trying to do is follow existing right-of-ways with those, but the impacts were just too high. There were all these houses that were built up along the existing right-of-ways, and we either would have had to take houses, which we don't do, or you would have had to constantly bump the right-of-way out around these houses and island them. And so your house count and the number of houses that were close to the lines just ended up being really high. So we started looking at other routes. And so for Culpeper in particular, what we found is that by setting the station kind of in the southern portion of Culpeper, we were able to cut a significant amount of mileage off the project and a very significant amount of impacts, and really reducing the amount of properties that were impacted, how many houses were close to the project itself, and we were still able to achieve an equivalent electrical outcome. So from a PJM standpoint, we are solving the grid issues we need to solve, but we're doing it with less impacts. And so that's why the site was moved to Culpeper.
And lastly, because I know my colleagues have questions, I have a laundry list of questions, but I'm sure they'll hit on many of those. I'll just make a comment during your presentation. If I heard you correctly, you mentioned, you said PJM. Let me explain what PJM, because we wouldn't expect many of you to understand what PJM is. I want you to know that Orange County understands what is happening. No further questions at this time.
Thank you, Supervisor Pullman, appreciate that. Next up is Supervisor Van Hoven, and then I'm going to move to Supervisor Marshall.
All right, I'm going to pose a question first before you answer that. I got a couple of observations based off of y'all's presentation.
Sure.
So the short answer is, what percentage of the route coming through Orange is outside of existing right-of-ways? I would assume that you're going to choose existing right-of-ways first. So what percentage of the route is outside of existing right-of-ways? Now, I'm going to comment on that. So you say PGM approved this power. There's plenty of power on your western side, which is Ohio and West Virginia. Assuming that power runs into Campbell County, or whatever, I heard Ohio and West Virginia. And you need power in northern Virginia. According to that county map that I was looking at, we know there's 9 counties affected, but I saw 5 counties in particular, Orange County, that this line runs directly through the entire county. Your words were, it sucks up about 20 miles of Orange County. My rough math in my head, and I'm not a mathematician, tells me that you guys think that's about 600 acres if you're doing your 200 foot wide. I don't know what a mile is. I'm gonna say 600 acres. That's 200 foot wide. But that's not realistic. What we're totally devaluating property in Orange County with is anyone in line of sight. Line of sight. If you take a mile wide take thousands of acres in Orange County and you take all of us that live in Orange County and devaluate thousands of acres, which is a huge chunk of Orange, you just effectively devalue everyone in Orange's property. Now, therefore, I don't get that very often, so the original question is, once again, what percentage of the proposed route is outside of the right of way? We're in a current right of way, well, I guess we got a different question.
So from a nomenclature perspective, inside existing rights of way, there's not enough space to co-locate existing right of way with this voltage or transmission line. So inside existing rights does not exist. And then parallel to existing rights of way, we did look at that, but unfortunately with the built environment coming close to those transmission lines already, we had to find other ways. So almost 100% of it is greenfield or outside other linear infrastructure.
And greenfields in a pass-through county. Let's remember that, because we're not developing any power on the 765 kV in Orange County. So we're a pass-through county, and we're going to suck up thousands and thousands of acres. That's what I'm hearing, correct?
Yes.
That's all right. So I just want to make sure I thought I heard your answer, and I just want to make sure because it was, and please let him answer so we can, and I know we have strong feelings, believe me, all of us do. I heard you to say there is 0% in existing right of way.
That's correct.
So no part of this line in Orange County will be in any existing right of way.
We parallel some linear infrastructure. There's a pipeline that comes through Orange that we are looking at. Whether or not that stays part of the segment, we'll see. There's some homes close by, so we're evaluating what that looks like right now. But the first step, as Adam talked about, is to see if existing rights of way, existing infrastructure can solve these solutions. We're just at a point in time with the load group that's happening across PJM that's not a realistic option for us. In some cases it is, but in this case, and with the issues we have in 2029, the case was not to use existing right of way. And then, of course, when we route these transmission lines, we have to sort of look at those impacts. And if we can't parallel existing rights, then we have to go to 100% greenfield, and that's what happened.
Okay, anything else, Supervisor Van Hoven? The answer was 0. I just want to reiterate that this is entirely greenfield in Orange County. Supervisor Marshall.
Thank you. I'm trying to get a better understanding of the capacity of a 765. It's my understanding it's the equivalent of 3 500s. Now, it is also my understanding that North Anna down here puts out 1.8 gigabytes. And the primary use of this transmission line is primarily to serve data centers to the north. Certain data center campuses will use up the equivalent of a North Anna, which is 1.8 gigabytes. The capacity of the line will serve how many, in comparison, how many North Annas can you put up through that line?
Sure. Nope, that's a great question. So the capacity of the line is roughly 6.6 gigawatts. So to your example, if North Anna was 1.8 gigawatts, we're talking roughly 4 North
You
Annas.
put 4 North Annas through that line.
Approximately. Yeah.
Y'all gonna fry Eastern Orange County.
So a little caveat, so there are thousands of miles of lines like this installed across the country already. AEP built out a large 765 kV grid back in the 1970s, so these lines have been in operation for 50 years at this voltage. So there is a long history of safe and reliable operation of this voltage in the U.S. And I'm sorry, you might have had a multi-part question there, but I might have missed some of the earlier
That was
ones.
the primary question.
Okay.
What is the opportunity of maybe converting AC to DC and putting this underground?
So that's a great question. and it's a question that we certainly get asked at open houses. I'm sure some of you might be familiar with Dominion's HVDC project that's kind of running from Brunswick County up to Loudoun County. And so we expect that to certainly be a point of discussion, at the open houses and as part of the stakeholder commission hearings. There are some kind of key differences between what we're proposing here with the 765 kV alternating current or AC line versus the underground HVDC project that's coming from Brunswick up to Loudoun. From our perspective, from a utility perspective, we're really trying to solve different problems with those projects. Right? So HVDC has some unique advantages. One of them being that you can put it underground at a lower cost than AC power. You can run it from longer distances underground. When you came with AC power, AC runs into some electrical issues that you don't have to get into. When you try to put it underground for long distances, it also requires many cables and becomes very expensive very quickly. DC power requires expensive converter stations at each end, but the actual cost per mile of the cable is lower than it would be for an AC project. The distinctions, though, is that DC power is very much a point-to-point solution. So for DC power, you put power in one end, you get power out the other end. If you have anything along the way that you want to provide power to, you can't really do it with DC power. It's A to B, anything in the middle, it's not gonna be able to tie into. The goal with this project, 765 kV project, is to really give us a high capacity backbone to reinforce the electric grid throughout central Virginia. Right, so we have a number of transmission lines that cross the 765 kV line between Campbell County and Culpeper County. And the goal, those are all alternating current AC lines. The goal will be to tie some of those into the 765 kV line at some point in the future to reinforce the electric grid in central Virginia and in northern Virginia. The HVDC project, being very point-to-point, is doing different things. It's taking a strong source of generation in Brunswick County and it's injecting it into a strong spot of load up in Loudoun County. The 765 kV project is a little over double the capacity of the HVDC project. So HVDC is limited by the converter stations. So that line is 3,000 megawatts. Because that's what we put through a converter station. So the 765 line, as we mentioned, is about 6,600 megawatts, so a little over double the capacity. You could, and perhaps you'd ask, why don't you run two underground HVDC lines to make up that capacity? That could be an option. It obviously comes with additional costs. So if you ran two, you're looking at roughly 8 times the cost to run 2 underground HVDC lines to give you a pretty equivalent capacity versus the 765 solution. Now that's something the SEC takes into account, right? SEC cares about the impacts and costs on ratepayers. One of their jobs is to make sure that we're not putting utilities aren't putting undue cost pressure on customers, and we're delivering efficient electrical solutions. But from our standpoint, the reason we proposed a 765 kV project over here and an HVDC project over to the east was just these different electrical problems we were trying to solve. Right? This one, we're trying to extend the 765 kV grid that currently ends in Lynchburg into Virginia, so we have a higher capacity backbone to strengthen our electric grid. The HVDC project, we were trying to move a strong source of generation to a strong pocket of load, and those are just different technical problems. But it's a good question. It's certainly a question we expect the SEC to dig into as part of the process.
So basically what you just said is it's possible to do it.
From an engineering standpoint, with enough money, most things are possible.
But the data centers pay for it. If they go underground, they can't branch
Okay, hold
off.
on now. Let's keep the questions and answers going. Supervisor Marshall?
I think it's pretty well answered.
Yeah. Great. All right. Supervisor Capel?
Yeah.
I think you have 150 questions.
No,
We're going to keep it to 2 minutes.
I don't have 150 questions. So the whole yeet movement from Fauquier to Culpeper is still a little bit of a mystery to me. The Fauquier proposal, you had said almost all that property was in existing right of ways, correct?
No, sir. So the route to Fauquier would have ended up being all open fields. The original route we proposed to PJM looked to follow a lot of existing corridors, but the routes that are proposed to the open windows are pretty high level. the open window process is mostly an electrical process that you're working through at PJM. It's not really a routing process. So when we got to detailed routing, when we were looking at FOC here, the routes that we had to take were all greenfield new right-of-way routes through the county. Again, mostly very jagged routes, trying to work our way around residences.
So that, because the maps that are in some of the briefing slides I saw show it almost all right away.
Yeah, so the original maps really just kind of came up to meet these existing 500 kV corridors.
Okay.
But you're right, once we actually got into the routing process, we quickly realized that wasn't going to be feasible.
So you're saying, so what percentage of those would have been greenfield?
So, of the original routes or of the new ones?
Well, the route that took the Eaton substation up to Morrisville in Fauquier County.
That was all greenfield. So going up to Fauquier would have all been greenfield routes as well.
Okay.
So once we got the award in February of last year, we've taken the last 10 months to go through a detailed routing exercise to get to the point where we are today. And so when we started looking at those routes in earnest and talking to each of the counties, the Fauquier routes would have been greenfield routes, just as they are in the other 9 counties.
Okay. And are those maps available? Because the maps I found online don't indicate that.
So we moved pretty quickly in looking at those routes, and those routes were easily dismissed for the reasons that Adam talked about, in addition to government-owned land and conservation easements. And so the routes that we went out publicly in February are a result of that evaluation.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the ones that are available online show almost all right-of-ways. No one you're talking about, you're saying that no right-of-ways, but I don't see any evidence of those maps online. Maybe you could provide those. Maybe I could see those maps too.
I think that's something we can discuss.
Pardon me?
I think that's something we can discuss.
Yeah. Okay.
But we want to have it, we want to see it. If you're saying it exists, we want it. We're not going to discuss it, we're asking for it. We asked for 28 questions like 12 days ago. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you deliver them right when you walk in. Well, we need to have some answers, and these answers are really important.
So part of what you said earlier was that there were some right-of-ways that existed, but there wasn't enough room for your transmission line. So I guess I'm struggling to understand how an existing right-of-way wouldn't have enough room, but a place that had no right-of-way would have plenty of room. It seems like whatever process you use to convert no right-of-way into right-of-way, you could use into converting a smaller right-of-way into a larger right-of-way. So, and then I don't understand your explanation that you just gave that they weren't in right-of-ways, because I just heard you say that some of the right-of-ways weren't big enough, just in the previous question, I think, to Mr. Marshall. But,
Do you want me to answer that question?
you can, yeah.
Sure. So, if we have existing right-of-way, they're typically taken up by existing transmission lines, right? So we get a right-of-way that's 100 feet wide or 200 feet wide, and we already put structures in there that's taking the electrical clearances and the safety clearances into account. So typically, those rights-of-way are fully subscribed to existing infrastructure. In some instances, back 50, 60 years ago, we were able to purchase wider right-of-way that we haven't yet approved. And so in that case, we can sometimes fit new structures in right-of-way that are what we call unapproved. In this instance, all the north-south right-of-way is fully subscribed with structures. So then we looked at, can we parallel or overlap an expansion? This right-of-way needs 200 feet wide of right-of-way to keep the electrical and safety clearances for this type of voltage. So once you look at that evaluation and how development has sprung up along our existing rights, there was just no good way to parallel 100% of that corridor going from north to south. And so as soon as we started looking into the data, we started figuring out that it was just as impactful trying to parallel existing rights versus trying to find open space to put new right-of-way. We understand there's unavoidable impacts that comes with that, but unfortunately, people are allowed to build right up to our right-of-way. And that's what happened in a lot of the existing corridors going north to south.
Okay, well, it just seems that when you go through land that doesn't have right of ways, you're actually impacting more people rather than less, regardless of what route you choose. Because the people who have right of ways are already impacted.
Agreed.
It's okay. Let me ask you one last question. So you've had open houses, right? Our county, lots of other counties. What are the 3 to 5 most important things you've learned from the open houses from our community members and what they've told you?
Sure, so I think we probably can answer both from our standpoints. Well, first, I think there's been a lot of development that we weren't aware of. So new homes being built in the last 3 months, site plans for new development, so those were good intel. There's some historical resources or areas of importance for property owners, family grave sites, unregistered graveyards that we didn't know about. And so those are the types of information that we're looking for so that we can make adjustments to avoid those.
So my only other comment, I would have loved to have these yesterday, I have more questions, but you'll be okay if we submit additional questions, right, based on what we submitted here tonight? Okay, thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Capel. We're going to move over to the Planning Commission. Chairman DiPasquale.
Thank you. I'll ask the first question, and we'll just work one here. Adam, you had mentioned earlier in your presentation, making an effort to minimize the impact on people, and I appreciate that. There are many studies that contradict your assertion that these high voltage 765 kilovolt lines will not pose a health risk to humans. Nonetheless, do you have any self-imposed standards or guidelines with regard to power line distances to humans, livestock, wildlife, wetlands, and streams? What are you going to do in that regard to protect the people in Orange County?
Sure, absolutely. That's a great question. So I think there's kind of 2 halves to that question, if you will. I'll try to answer both of them. So to answer your question about safety and how we design transmission lines, all transmission lines in the United States are designed according to the National Electric Safety Code.
Just if I could, I didn't talk about safety, I talked about health.
Okay, so normally when people bring up potential health concerns with transmission lines, what we hear at open houses a lot is people who are concerned about EMF or electromagnetic frequency. That's the health concern that you tend to hear from the public a lot of open houses. I can tell you, Dominion, ValleyLink, most utilities follow the science on EMF very, very closely. It is a question that gets brought by the public all the time. So we follow the guidelines of the World Health Organization, the US EPA, and they have found no evidence that EMF, the rumor we hear when it comes to EMF is that EMF causes cancer. Right? That's the rumor that's kind of out there in the public sphere. It's been out there since the 1980s. There was a big scare back in the 1980s and 1990s before there was a lot of research on this topic that power lines might be causing cancer. And so since that time, there's been a lot of studies that have been done, studies by all sorts of governmental agencies and universities, and a number of large organizations like the World Health Organization, like the EPA, like the American Cancer Society, kind of collect those studies. And what they found is that there's no link between electromagnetic frequencies, power lines, and cancer. There's just no cause that's been found. Now they do continue to do studies, and they continue to review research, and as utilities, we continue to monitor that. And that's extremely important to us as well. As you may not know, EMF it scales. The closer you get to a source, the higher the EMF would be. And utility workers work much closer to energized lines than kind of your average person in the public. Right? So we're working on substations and transformers. So the EMF exposure of the utility worker is going to be much higher than the EMF of the exposure of a regular person going about their everyday life. So from a company standpoint, it's extremely important that anything that we're doing is safe, both for the public and for our own line workers who are working on these energized lines. And
Well, just to stop you there.
Sure.
It's not a rumor, there are a number of agencies, the British Medical Journal, Journal of Internal Medicine, International Agency for Research on Cancer. Even the United States EPA, the EPA cautions citizens that there is reason for concern and advises avoidance of high voltage power lines. So you can pick and choose what research you'd like to abide by. But the reality is, there is reason for concern, particularly in children. And it's appropriate that we're here in the high school gymnasium, a place where kids are going to grow and hopefully become leaders, that the most affected humans are children. So I think it's a concern. I think that we ought to take a look at the additional research that many of us in the audience have looked at, and we're very concerned about, and we will continue to pressure you on this issue. Commissioner Martin?
All right, Adam, just a couple of questions. Where does the power go once it gets to the substation? So you talked about there's a lot of demand in Northern Virginia and demand for data centers. But so once the power gets to you, where does it go?
Sure.
Who does it go to?
Yep, that's a great question. So, if you look at kind of the transmission lines that will be coming out of Heat substation, right? So Heat is located on the existing 500 kV corridor, so it's an existing 500 kV community transmission line. We'll be building additional 500 kV lines in that corridor in the future. We'll be building some of those 500 kV lines as kind of follow-ons to this project. So essentially, that power will come in from the 765 kV line. Power can flow wherever it's needed, but generally, on an average day, that power will be flowing from Campbell County, if you follow all the way back, it'll be coming down the 765 kV grid that runs through Ohio and West Virginia, into southwestern Virginia. It'll be flowing up towards Culpeper County. When it gets to those 500 kV lines, they run north and south. So they run north, kind of up into Fauquier, and they run south back into Orange and Louisa County. So once it gets there, it'll run north and south, kind of towards northern Virginia and towards central Virginia on those existing new 500 kV lines. And from there, that power will be spread out kind of across the Convenience 500 kV system, and ultimately, power will go wherever the load is. Right now in Virginia, we have a lot of load in Northern Virginia, we have a lot of load growing in our Richmond area in central Virginia. So generally, it's hard to give an exact answer, but generally, you'll see a split kind of flowing towards those loads.
Really, my second question is more of an observation, I guess. In your initial comments, you had said that this transmission line was for the interest of the citizens in Virginia. From my observation, I think the only interest that this line is in the interest of those who stand to make a profit off the data center. We're not going to see any benefit from this line. And it's certainly not in the interest of the landowner that you guys are going to lastly, you had said about cost pressure. And it seems to me that the cost is being borne by these counties that this line is going through, this project is going to be disseminated throughout. But the benefit does not come, the cost versus the benefit does not, those numbers don't add up. So the benefit goes to somebody down the line who does not bear the cost of getting the power in. And that's a concern.
Do you want to respond to that question?
I'm sorry, who was that? I'm happy to respond, but
just a comment. Commissioner Raines?
In relation to the substation location change from Fauquier to Culpeper. In relation to the substation change from Fauquier to Culpeper, did that location change influence the need to reroute through Orange?
great question. So extremely relevant to this audience today? The short answer is no. So if you, and I know we'll discuss whether we can, show kind of what those initial routes look like to the board here. But the initial routes that we were looking at were the same up through Culpeper. So actually the station, the location that we're putting heat in Culpeper, the routes that we ran through Fauquier ran right through that site. So nothing south of Culpeper is impacted by the change from Fauquier to Culpeper. It's just everything north of that station is no longer needed for a transmission line. But there's no impact whatsoever on the routes in Orange.
Following up on that, what alternative substation locations were evaluated other than Culpeper?
Another really good question. So we looked at a variety of locations. We looked at Fauquier, we looked at William, we looked at a couple locations in Culpeper, a couple different spots. We looked at some of the spots of Spotsylvania. But what we needed, this is really important electrically, is we needed a spot where we could tie into our high voltage grid. We needed a strong 500 kV set of lines that we tie into, right? We can't just tie into a 230 kV line somewhere. It's not going to have the juice to offtake that power and take it where it needs to go. So that does limit the areas that we looked at. How we really ended up at the Culpeper site in particular was that in Culpeper, there was a large amount of timberland. When we're looking at a site substation, if you can work with commercial property owners, that's generally preferable because it's easier to have a business relationship versus coming to someone saying, hey, I'd like to put a station in your backyard. That's a very different conversation. The other advantage is that because there was over 1,000 acres of timberland, it gave us the ability to really set the station back from any houses, right? It gave us the ability to create strong buffers and keep the station away from residences. So in terms of location versus the other spots that we looked at, it was the area that we thought we could set the station furthest back away from people at the lowest impact of the station and give us a tie-in to the 500 kV grid and a strong location where we needed it. So that's kind of why that site was chosen. It just allowed us to minimize the impact of the station.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Commissioner Van Hoven?
I'm a bit confused. Earlier in the presentation, it sounded like the original path was down through Hanover, and it's Spotsylvania County. And you said when the substation moved to Culpeper is when the line got shifted west to affect less people in Orange County. But just now you answered a question and said that it didn't affect anything south of Culpeper. So could you clarify that for me?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. So there's actually two different things happening in the routing process there. So there was the original routes, if you look at the PJM routes in 2024, they kind of run into Hanover County and then they run north. And what those routes are doing is they were following existing 500 kV right-of-ways. So there's an existing 500 kV line that runs through Fluvanna County, through Houston County, and into western Hanover County that we had looked at following back during the summer 2024 when it was described in PJM. And then there's the existing north-south 500 kV corridor that kind of runs from that point in western Hanover up through Louisa County, past the North End Power Station, through Spotsylvania, and up in Northern Virginia. So we were looking at paralleling those two corridors. Right? As we got into the routing process, we quickly realized that as we went through before, there was just too many houses, too many residences along those lines, and trying to parallel those existing right-of-ways was just going to have really, really high impacts. And that's when we started looking at more greenfield options. So that was step one. Step two was then deciding on the substation location was going to be moved from Fauquier to Culpeper. But that came after we already decided that we couldn't follow those existing corridors.
So, I'm not sitting well with me. We shouldn't be penalized for our road being played here. Just because there's less people doesn't mean we want the power line to work better for us. This is people's plan, and we're good right now.
They worked hard for it,
So keep those people in their houses. I have to understand. Most of the people are farmers. Was our comprehensive plan, Orange County's comprehensive plan considered in any way when you guys decided to route for the eastern?
Yes. So the SEC asks us to look at each of the county's comprehensive plans. They'll look at also the comprehensive plans. It's not abide by. You have to look at it to see if there's co-location opportunities for how the comp plan is developed. And that is the consideration that we take into the routing.
Can I ask a quick follow-up on that? So tell me what our comprehensive plan you said you looked at and then discarded.
So you look at things like industrial areas, if counties have tech overlay districts, there are mixed opportunities for conservation or sort of no-go areas for rural or residential or forested lands. So that's all the things that we take into account.
No, I understand what you take into account. We talked about that in your presentation, but my follow-up, and if I can, Commissioner Van Hoven, is you said you looked at our comprehensive plan and you don't have to abide by it, and you made some decisions that were contrary to that. So can you tell us what you looked at and what decisions you made to ignore our comprehensive plan?
Sure, there's three main things that happened in Orange County that we looked at that we had to balance. One was finding available 200-foot wide right-of-way, proximity to residential and historic districts, battlefields that are here, namely Mile Run Core area as well as the wilderness area, and finding a path that gave us opportunities to limit those impacts. And so that's what drove us to the alignments that we had in the eastern part of.
So did you ignore the part of our comprehensive plan where we said if you're going to, our comprehensive plan says no new transmission lines, but if you're going to consider a new transmission line, you use existing right-of-way. Did you look at that part?
We explained that we might use existing transmission.
And so you looked at that and discarded that from our comprehensive plan.
Unfortunately, it was the impacts that came along with that were too great, given that homes and businesses are too close to existing rights of way.
And that in another place.
So to have 200 feet additional right of way, we have to go where open space was.
So I think the answer is you ignore the comprehensive plan. I want to give it back to Commissioner Van Hoven. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. You have to stop and say. You saw our vision statement on your asset, right? To sustain our rural character and to enhance our citizens' quality of life. How is it going to enhance their quality of life? How can we look at them and good conscience and say this is good for Orange County?
Fair question. And as Adam talked about, there is no good way to route new transmission lines, but as a utility that has responsibilities to provide reliable and dependable power to all customers, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we maintain nearly 7,000 miles of transmission lines across the Commonwealth. 58 miles of that transmission line is in Orange County. So some other county is bearing transmission lines to serve somebody else's county. So when we look about doing that, we have to limit the impacts that come with the infrastructure. You do that with water lines, you do that with roads, and you do that with transmission lines as well. And so yes, are there unavoidable impacts? Yes, we're not here to debate that. We're here to debate whether or not we're doing it appropriately and we're listening to what we can do. But we have a responsibility to the Commonwealth to provide power, and these are our responsibilities. The violations that PJM identified in 2029 are non-negotiable. We have to solve those. They're the same types of violations that we've been maintaining over the last 20 years, and they're the same reliability standards that we're going to be maintaining for the next 20 years. It's our responsibility to keep the grid healthy, intact, robust, and dependable for all of our groups.
Okay, I just want to remind you that there are any attorneys here representing ValleyLink?
No.
Okay, under 15-2-2202E, you're obligated to give the locality a reasonable opportunity for consultation of such line, which has not happened. So you're already in violation of the statute.
We've met with the Orange County planning staff since the summer of last year, and that statute, we haven't yet provided notice to each of our counties. We're going through a pre-application process, what we call a pre-application process, and so we haven't gotten to that point yet.
But we intend to engage you and push this issue to statute because you're obligated to consult with us, and that has not happened. not consulted with the leadership of the county, which are these 5 board members here. So I want to remind you of that. I would encourage you to talk to legal counsel about it as well. Okay, with that, Commissioner Leonard.
Thank you very much. A lot has been said. There are a lot of questions that remain, and I look forward to the process of answering those questions. You answering those questions, and I'd like to open the floor to our residents to ask them.
So, let me ask a couple before we get to public comment. I just want to follow up on a couple of things. You had a slide, maybe second or third slide, that said this line was approved by PGM. PJM. Yeah, go back to the slide right there. Approved by PJM. This route has not been approved by PJM. Has it?
No, so
That is not true.
PJM is not approved routes. PJM is kind of the
They've
first.
not approved this line. They've approved doing the 765.
Correct. They
Okay,
have to-
but wait a second, hold on a second. You're going back to PJM to get this route, this location approved, right?
No.
You're not. So your representative told me at the Culpeper meeting that in April and May, you're gonna be in front of PJM getting an approval of some sort because the last approval didn't apply. Is that not true?
So the PJM approval process is for the electrical solution. They advocate the responsibility for local siting to the Virginia State Corporation.
So you're saying you're not going back to PJM?
For the routing of the distribution line, no.
What are you going, okay, sorry. Looks like you, when are you going back to PJM in April and May?
So, because the location changed, the 500 kV lines that we're tying into are different lines, right? They have different line numbers, they terminate different substations. So, that has submitted to PJM, hey, we're changing the location of the station, we're now tying into different 500 kV lines. Our plans are looking at it, looks electrically identical to us. Can you validate this and make sure that you agree? So PJM's engineers have been looking at it, and they have validated that to them it also looks electrically equivalent. So PJM needs to sign off on the change electrically of the lines we're tying into. But to Greg's point, from a routing standpoint, routing and the approval of the project really lies with the SEC when it comes to.
No, I understand what the SEC is going to do after you file your application, but you still have to go in front of PJM. This looks like, oh, it's a done deal, we're just changing it to a new location, they're going to approve it anyway. But it hasn't happened.
Correct, the
Okay.
deactivating is what they call it.
Okay, so I would suggest when you put that up, you say pending approval by PJM. Because this leads everyone in this room and our entire county to the conclusion that, oh, it's already done there, but it's not. And you're going in April and May, is that right?
That's right.
So if we're gonna be clear, the PJM has approved this 765 project to address the issues in 2029. They're approving the electrical modification that we're asking of.
And
So
that's
there's a nuance there, but if we're gonna be clear, I think we need to be clear that the 765 line that resolves the issues in 2029, this project is approved. We've asked for a slight modification electrically on the change of the location for the substation.
And that slight modification has a great impact on Orange County.
Whether we land the line in Culpeper County or in Fauquier County, the routes to Orange County would be the same. So whether PJM approved or didn't approve the electrical change, the impact to Orange would look good.
So you said earlier, and this will be the last thing so we can get to our public comment. I have a real issue with this. You said, well, we're gonna change the lines, right? You're gonna decide on one of these, something, and you're gonna come back in June. And, as we go through our process, we're looking and hearing input and impacts and understanding where all these resources are. So So you said we, referring to us and the citizens, we have to check the website to know that you changed. You're not sending notification out to say that you've changed it.
No, we will. We will. So there's going to be a notification process that happens throughout the summer and into June and whatever we need. But yes, we will be.
Well, I know you're going to be here in June, but let me just, on a finer point here, what I heard you say is you are going to change the route on your website and we'll be able to see it there. How are we going to know when you change it? What if you change part of it and not another part?
I appreciate the process question. So we're taking all the feedback now from these open houses and any other comments and interactions we're having. We are going to make one set of changes all at once that we will publicize and let the community know when that happens. That will happen before June, and folks will know when that happens. We're not going to do slight modification here, slight modification there. We're trying to collect all changes and input now, and we'll make one set of changes that we can go back out to the community to get the feedback. So we'll be having many communications from now through the end of the year. But no one will have to go check without us having to send them a note, whether that's a postcard or if they call in, we'll give them a timeline. I know sometimes the mail can be finicky, but we're doing the best that we can do with the tools we have, namely postcards, digital communications, print advertising to let folks know what's happening.
Well, the concern I have is when I went to the Culpeper meeting, one of the first meetings before the Orange meeting, was prior to that, when we sat down and tried to get an individual look at what was going on, is I went online, the maps weren't up to date, the things weren't there, and yet you're plowing through this process, expediting this process without giving us that information. Put it all out and get it on the website, and then tell us that it's out and updated, as opposed to us going to the website and like, well, I can't even tell what you're doing right now. And that's a big issue to keep the public informed, especially when you're going to do what you're planning to do here in Orange County. Because we have 40,000 people who are not happy about this, point blank. And this greenfield, there is just nothing in existing right of way. When our comprehensive plan said, if you're going to put a new line in, use existing right of way. Even if that means your equivalent of 3 500s, you take a 500 and you maybe put it through that right of way, if you're going to do that in Orange. But right now, it's all new terrain, it's all green field, and that green field is historic, rural, farming, forest. And it's really Okay, I got 2 more questions and then we'll go to public comment. Thank you for your patience. Supervisor Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman Nichol. I know we want to get to public comment, but I want to make just a few final comments and thoughts on my own for this. You mentioned that there is a possibility of doing 2 underground lines. Could be done, but would be more costly and would take a much larger investment. You also mentioned that Dominion Power, provides power to folks, and you have a responsibility to do that. And somebody, somewhere, has borne the responsibility and the cost of the power that we here in Orange County utilize. I just would like to make a couple points. The market value of Dominion Power is approximately $55 to $57 billion. The annual revenue is roughly 15 to 16 plus billion per year. You serve millions of homes across multiple states, but you are a major U.S. energy company worth over $50 billion. That is almost uncomprehendable to our folks here in Orange County. I ask you to bear the burden of the cost and put this down. So that these folks, many of which are are working day in and day out just to maintain and just to hold on to their land so that they don't have to bear that cost. You are a multi-billion-dollar company, and we do not want those costs borne by our citizens in Orange County. Thank you.
And we have one last question, Supervisor Campbell.
That's right. I don't understand. So you said earlier that if the substation had stayed in Fauquier County, that the path through Orange County wouldn't have changed. That makes no sense. Are you telling me you would have gone through Orange and around Nichol Woods to get to?
Yes.
So if that's the case, there's something else about Orange County that's causing you to run through. And so as I go through these, you had opportunities, constraints, engineering. Your opportunities are existing structure. We don't have that. Future land use is one. We don't have that. The only thing we have is large tracts of land, which, by the way, we spent a lot of damn time protecting. A lot of time. Some of us have put a lot of our lives into protecting that land, and you're going to come along and destroy it. Constraints are homes and scenic assets, and we have all of those. Public lands and conservation easements, we have some conservation easements. And then your engineering piece, or right-of-way width, what you're looking for, we don't have that. Linear crossings, we don't have that. I mean, when I go through this list here, we're like the worst choice. It's like when you go through all your opportunities, we don't have any of them except for large lands. So I still don't quite understand what in the world you're talking about, that you're gonna go through Orange County to get to Morrisville. And it just is completely opposite of everything that you've published. So that's more of a comment than anything, but I just feel like I feel like you've destined Orange County for this, no matter what. And there's something else going on here. I don't know if it's just ease, or you think we're just dumb, or whatever it is. But it's, I don't really understand what you just said. Or maybe some other time we'll talk about it. I want to hear what the public has to say.
Thank you, Supervisor Campbell. I know it's not easy being out here, and I can tell you, we appreciate Dominion Energy, and I know that you all are part of ValleyLink, but my understanding is the 5 of you are from Dominion Energy employees, so appreciate that. I was kind of wondering why your partners weren't here, which that kind of bothers me, because one's a routing partner, I believe, and so we couldn't ask them the tough questions, but we'll be asking more questions. We got your answers today from 10 days ago, and apparently the billions of dollars don't allow them to answer the questions any quicker. But so that we can be prepared, I would suggest you work on that. But we'll set that aside, and I would sincerely thank you for being here. It's never easy to come into a room where there are high emotions and a lot at stake, but there's a lot at stake here. And so I would ask that you stay and hear our public comments on the proposed high power transmission lines from those who are impacted citizens and those who are concerned citizens. These are public comments that we expect from this board and this planning commission that you'll take into account for your proposed high transmission power line. So with that, you can have a seat and join us in the public comment period. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
So, now we begin the public comment period. We have 86 speakers signed up to speak. Let me talk about the process. If you want to speak and did not sign up, you can go out, sign up, and we'll get you a number. And you can hold that number, and we'll add to the 86. If you have signed up to speak, if you have a number, take a look at your number. I would ask that you keep your remarks to approximately 2 minutes. You may, if you want, but if the 2 minute time comes up, I'm not going to shut you right off in 2 minutes, but we'd like it to stay as close as that as possible, because that's a lot of time, about a couple hours to go here. If you have handwritten comments and you don't get through, you can provide them to our staff here, and we will take those into consideration. We will call you down to speak in 2 groups for efficiency. 2 groups of 20. So when I call your number in a range, please come down and take a seat. So it's 2 individuals down here, Stephanie and Jenny, our Deputy County Administrator and Assistant County Administrator. Stephanie will have green, so you're going to be 1 through 20. And Jenny has the yellow flag. So this will, well, let me just say to members of the public, I would ask that you, when you come up for your 2 minutes, come down, take your seats. We will call you one at a time. We want you to take the right amount of time to tell whatever story you want to tell, but keep it in that time frame and keep it respectful. One of the great things that we've seen at our recent board meetings is you all coming out, telling us what you think, and we're here to listen and learn and understand where you are so we can meet you where you are and represent you accordingly. So let's get started with our public comment. Speaker numbers 1 through 20 come down to the green flag. Speaker numbers 21 through 40, please come down to the yellow flag. Members of the public, I only have I have 2 requirements. One, please come up to the podium, say your name and your address, and then once you do that, we will start the timer and say whatever you want to say to the public comment. So, number 1, you are number 1, sir. Thank you.
While this line of monstrosity severely affects my family, and with an expected seizure of up to 30 acres of our farm, what I want to talk to you about tonight is the numerous cases where people have left their stories on our website. And there's a lot of sad ones, and a lot of those people couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to speak to those. I'm going to read those off. I have 5 or 6 of them, there's other people that have others. This line will come right through the middle of our 186-acre farm and be about 200 yards from our house. It will destroy us financially and is already destroying us mentally. It will turn the dream we worked for all our lives into a nightmare. We are in the middle and very close to either route. We breed $1 million horses, and the waves off these lines will affect their fertility. And we lose a business we just invested in. One route goes directly through my property and would affect my dog boarding business. No one wants to pull into a dog resort and be greeted by these towers and the electromagnetic fields. We have worked hard for over 6 years to create an oasis for pets. This would kill it. I received a letter the other day that we are in line with the proposed plan going through Orange. Just moved here last August and purchased 2 years ago. Cannot believe that my beautiful historic home, part of which was built in 1734, survived the Civil War and is now being threatened by metallic monstrosities. It's heartbreaking. One more?
Go ahead.
It runs right through the middle of our 19-acre skinny lot my father left us. The lot will be unbuildable with a 200-foot right-of-way directly down the middle. ValleyLink representatives said they would not buy the lot, but just seek the right-of-way, leaving us with a useless lot of land to pay taxes on. Thank you.
Thank you.
The following are 3 impact statements that were submitted to Block ValleyLink. Number 1 of the lines is going right through our farm, through a horse pasture with plain view of our home. In addition, we already have a super large power line at the back of our property, so we could possibly have 2 of these monstrosities. Number 2, we just moved into our forever home, and one of the paths crosses directly behind our property. If we had known this was coming, we would have purchased land elsewhere. Number 3, I have a 250-year family history in Virginia. I left Virginia in 2014 and returned September of 2025 to find Virginia had become the data center capital of the globe, and 9 counties so ruined by the uncertainty of the ValleyLink 765 kV transmission line project that I have ruled out buying real estate in all of Central Virginia at present. For those who currently own property, there is no doubt their properties are already devalued due to the uncertainty of the roots and the devastating environmental issues. Any investor is going to use the ValleyLink website to look up proposed routes and corresponding property addresses prior to serious consideration. The impact zone for noise and vision is 1 mile on each side of both transmission routes, a very large geographic area. Further, all properties within the impact zone will require county reassessment to lower their tax valuations due to the adverse effects, leading to decreased county tax revenues unless overall property taxes are increased. Dominion Energy and this ValleyLink LLC have caused a 9-county wildfire.
Hello, my name is Curtis Gish. I live at 7318 Tannery Road in Locust Grove. Our family farm is directly across the road from the 2 schools on 20. 2 of the proposed routes will directly enter and cross my property. Not only will it destroy our way of life, it will degrade the value of generations down the road. One of the concerns I have is in this day and technology, why can't these things be less invasive? Well, our work time here is only a little piece of our time, but this transmission line is going to be here for generations. We'll never, ever get over to seeing this in our backyards. It's alarming to me that when we've been here for 50 years, this is our home. Soldiers had died during the mine run campaign on our farm. We have a beautiful home. I can see the Blue Ridge Mountains. For those of you who've been here long enough, I can see Mormont. I think it's called Clark's Mountain now. But I am strongly opposed to this. I don't want this to go on anybody's property at all. should have been more prepared. Asked also that this is very quick. We just found out about it, and we went to a meeting last week at the library, and we had like 5 days to submit questions to FERC, whoever that is. It's some federal agency, does whatever. Please, could you not go through this? I need everybody's support.
Caitlin Barner, 28055 Orange Springs Road, Spotsylvania, Virginia, Orange County. I am a 6th generation farmer. I grew up farming alongside my dad and granddad. My husband and I just purchased our farm here in Orange County. We have poured many resources into our farm, both financially as well as our time. And we are at risk of losing this farm if the proposed transmission lines go through. The decrease we will see in property values will eat away at all the equity we have built, and we will not be able to simply start over. This proposed transmission line is running right behind our home. And for what? To power Northern Virginia data centers. Let's put some real numbers in here. Fiscal year 2026, Loudoun County is estimating roughly $1.14 billion in data center real estate and personal property tax revenue. Next, Dominion Energy. As reported in their 2025 annual report, reported a $3 billion profit. Let me say that again, $3 billion. The folks that live in this county choose to live here. We value our rural lifestyle and small communities, but let's call this transmission line what it is. Dominion sees those data centers as a cash cow and is looking to milk rural Virginia dry in order to power. Orange County should not be expected to address a problem that Northern Virginia has created and clearly has the financial resources and solutions to fix on their own. I failed to mention early on worldly breaks on our farm. We do have livestock, but I want the representatives here to see tonight the most important people that we raise on our farm, the 7th generation. We are not affecting just thousands of landowners and rural Virginia citizens, but you forgot that you are robbing these farm kids of their future. A future that may not be as rich as the dollar signs on your billion-dollar profits, but a future of raising the next generation of farmers who will continue to put food on your table.
Good evening. My name is Claire Cleveland. I'm a PhD geoscientist from Penn State. Thank you for your excellent questions this evening. It is much appreciated. We are being told this 115-mile 19th century technology, this sledgehammer, is a necessary, but is a necessity. But the legal landscape in Richmond has changed. House Bill 889 now explicitly requires utilities to prioritize existing linear infrastructure like I-95 over clearing new rural easements. Simultaneously, House Bill 434 mandates the State Corporation Commission must audit grid efficiency before approving new construction. Why is Orange County and 8 other counties being asked to move forward while the state is still settling the rules for less invasive 21st century distributed technologies? I just want to make it clear I'm not representing Penn State. I'm just a woman standing at the podium. ValleyLink promises a 2029 finish, but we are hitting an industrial wall. Lead times for extra high voltage transformers are now 36 to 48 months out. These units require rare earth elements and specialized steel currently in global shortage. If they don't have approval until late 2027, they cannot finish by 2029. risking our viewsheds, our groundwater for a project that is already over-leveraged against a global materials shortage. Business executives for national security, which are global leader CEOs and retired generals, recognize the systemic risk of centralizing this much power onto a single corridor, which creates an N+1 reliability failure. A single F3 tornado, and F3 tornadoes are what are rated to cut through those lines, cyber warfare, just hacking the system, or a physical attack can take down this single point of failure. Also, the 50 to 80 year lifespan of the transmission line is a mismatch for data centers that have a 10 to 15 year lifespan and drain all the water so you can't just build a new one. That is 4 points. I have 9 more that I can get through very quickly. Would you like me to ask more questions? Okay, I'm going to read one more.
Do one more.
Okay. The current
Please
data,
provide them to us, and we'll make sure.
you've got them. I've already given you an entire packet, and I'm just getting started. The current data provided by ValleyLink is insufficient for informed decision-making. By utilizing voluntary reporting loopholes and NDA-protected usage estimates, the developers have obscured true metabolic drain on our aquifers, which is still pertinent to Orange County. Because this includes our wells and drawdown through compaction of soil through those corridors. The question is, how can this board fulfill its fiduciary duty to protect Orange County's resources when the applicant is legally withholding the very data required to model for long-term impact on our water tables, including those corridors? This is not just data centers. The risk. The board cannot legally approve what it cannot technically understand. This is grounded in a fairly debatable standard and the arbitrary and capricious doctrine, which are the cornerstones of Virginia land use law.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Darlene Dawson, 23603 Monrovia Road, Orange. And I'm here tonight wearing 2 hats. The first hat is as a property owner. This proposed transmission line is 800 feet from our back door in a pristine farmer's field. My husband and I retired here 10 years ago because this beautiful county feels so much like our home in western Princeton, William County, used to be. It is now unrecognizable. One of the domain reps offered me this quote to justify the project. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. That's Karl Marx. No, thank you. Northern Virginia made this bed, and we should not be forced to lay in it. My second hat tonight is as chair of the Orange County School Board. One of the routes places the lines within about 1,300 feet of our Locust Grove Elementary School. The negative impact on our schools and families is hard to quantify. Loss of revenue due to property devaluation, potential enrollment declines, disruption to our transportation routes, interruption of the learning environment, potential health hazards for our children, constant noise pollution, and who knows what impact on our comprehensive and capital improvement plans as these large infrastructure developments change the land use projections for the foreseeable future. The Orange County School Board, 5-0, stands in absolute opposition of this project.
Jeremy Bitt, 9651 Meadows Road in Locust Grove, Virginia. I'm going to be very brief, and I'm going to cede the rest of my time back to Claire, because I think she has more she wanted to say. Orange, from what I've heard tonight, Orange County residents are not Dominion customers. They're not TransSource customers, First Energy customers, American Electric Power customers, or Evergy customers. I have not heard a direct benefit of this project to me or any resident of this county. Also, the density of homeowners in Orange is intentionally lower than some other counties because that is the lifestyle that we have invested in. I encourage all my fellow citizens to follow the law, but also explore whatever forms of civil disobedience they are comfortable with. Do not expect a corporation to do the right thing unless we force them to. And with that, I see my time back to Claire.
Excuse me, he cannot see this on. That's not, unfortunately, it's just not, I think, the rules. And I appreciate it.
I'll be outside afterwards if anyone wants to hear my.
Thank you. And we just have to treat everybody the same and just work through this process. We want to hear from everybody. And Mr. Bryan, thank you for coming up, and please state your name and your address.
Thank you. My name is Michael Regan, 32641 Deep Meadow Lane, Locust Grove. Let's be clear about ValleyLink. It's a JV type of TransSource, which is more majority owned by AEP, a company that developed 765 transmission in the 60s. And that's exactly what's being proposed here. A massive, decades-old approach, not the best solution, no discussion of alternatives, just the one dictated by AEP's antiquated business model. Even in the 60s, infrastructure of this scale was designed for long-distance transmission across sparsely populated regions, like western deserts, remote mountain corridors, not through working farms, established neighborhoods in the heart of our nation's history. If the answer to 21st century energy demand is carving brand new corridors through central Virginia, then we're not being offered innovation. We're being asked to absorb the impact. What these gentlemen don't talk about is the 2025 RTEP cycle, where they plan to run a double stream of 765 to the Bonke station and Bonke to Eat. They don't want to talk about that, but that's scheduled to come online in 2031. We're being asked to live in the sacrifice zone. So the real question is this: why is this infrastructure being pushed through here instead of being built closer to where the power is actually used? There are transmission alternatives already under review at the SCC that are more direct, use existing corridors, reduce harm, and meet reliability needs. Those need to be fully evaluated before our land is encumbered by this ridiculous proposal and assaulted by their survey helicopters flying low over our homes on Sunday. We're not opposed to energy, we're opposed to outdated planning and the threats of eminent domain. And to this board, don't just oppose this. Make it hard for ValleyLink at every step. Strengthen our comprehensive plan, pass a resolution in opposition, encourage our good neighbors in Culpeper and our officials to deny conditional use permits for super substations, intervene at the SEC. In their own terms, electricity follows the path of least resistance. Continue to make this county the resistance. Thank you.
My name is Sarah Regan, 32641 Deep Meadow Lane. I wasn't even going to speak today, but then we had the helicopter drive-bys on Sunday, and I got really angry. These people have basically come down here and terrorized 9 counties with their helicopter flybys, with their so-called open houses where they said things like, sometimes the many have to be sacrificed for the few. I know of at least 2 elderly citizens in this county who have been sick with anxiety to the point of gastrointestinal issues over this. To the board, I want to say thank you. We know that you're behind us. Thank you for standing your ground. To Orange County, look around. You are not their customers. The data centers, the AI data centers are their customers now. We have to stand together. This transcends race, class, politics. It doesn't matter. We have to decide. It's about humanity versus data centers. And are we going to allow ourselves to be plowed under and become a sacrifice zone and have our beautiful farmland and our health sacrificed just so the tech bros up north who own those data centers can hit their digital gold rush? because that's what it is. They're in a hurry, and they're about to walk out the door with their own generation. So we are on the chopping block. So I just encourage everybody to stand firm, become an immovable wall, and refuse to give in. To that end, I always have this to say to you. No.
Start this by saying I'm Beverly Jenkins. I live at 20511 Shore Drive in Orange. I am not in the affected area, but any changes or plans or any extension to ValleyLink coming this way towards Orange, in this part of Orange, can affect all of us. I am an Orange County citizen. Anything that affects Orange County affects us all. We do not need this from you. We do not benefit from this. And as one of the board members said, and I think it was you, what are they planning down the road? This is just the first step. This is for the AI centers and the data centers. I don't want this in Orange County. If you can put it underground, okay. They have more money than we do. There's been not a cost study as to our electric bill going up compared to our electric bill going up more if they put it up underground. Show us the studies. We might say, okay, it's cost efficient for us to have underground wires. But no, I don't want to see something as tall or taller than the Statue of Liberty, and I've been there, and she's good and tall. Every time I drive in to Locust Grove or go to Fredericksburg, I don't want that. I just don't want that. Thank you for your time.
Take your time.
Hello, sorry for the delay. My name is Barbara Steele, and I live at 10494 St. Just Road in Unionville, in Orange County. I am opposed to this project. First of all, I moved to Orange County for a rural, beautiful lifestyle. These eyesores are going to very much change all that. And it's not on my property per se, but it's going to affect my property values. And in addition to that, I totally don't believe that there's no health consequences when you've got that kind of electricity coming through. Now, we don't benefit from this. This is for the benefit of Northern Virginia. They should absorb the cost of putting it underground for our county and the other counties that are not benefiting. That's all.
I'm John Fry from Oakwood Lake Estates. This monstrosity would be 200 feet from my house through some of the most beautiful. They, in every situation where I've heard ValleyLink or they have no clue about what that means to us. To have my 12 acres, that's my legacy to my kids, my grandkids. And I just want to center in on the mental health aspect of all that. And it's going to be a boring personal story, but how when my office was taken out by a plane on 9/11, the powers to be, the defense secretary, then chairman of the Joint Chiefs, made sure that those of us who were in the black blaststone that survived had all the mental health, professional, and other that we needed. I live 2-hour commute, so some of that I couldn't take advantage of. So I get in the car and when I turned off of 3 onto historic Constitution Highway, it just started feeling better when I turned into my drive, parked my car. The first thing, down to the backyard, sit and enjoy the sights, the sounds of my beautiful oak forest, which will be gone if they have their way. And they don't understand any of that. It's all the rich get richer, and rural Virginia pays the price. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity. My name is Joe Cotton. I live at 11527 Robbins Bridge Road in Nichol. So my wife and I moved there to Orange County in 2004. The plan was to build a dream home, pay it off, retire, live out our life. That's the American dream. Well, we own just all that in ValleyLink. Guess what? One of the proposed lines runs through the back of our property and our neighbors. Another proposed line runs down the neighbor's driveway and cuts through other homeowners' lots. Any of these proposed routes would destroy where we live. They also restrict what we can do with our property. They say we still own it and pay taxes on it, but limit what we can do on our own property. Our realtor told us just the proposal on our property dropped our house price about $100K. And online it states when it's built, it could drop as low as 42%. And we'll never get compensated for that. And I've listened to many talk about their stories, how bad this is going to affect their lives. We are told it's for the greater good. Who decides that? This is destroying our lives for data centers is the greater good. This is profit over people, which is made clear by the fact that we have not heard any other studies that would put power where it's needed in Northern Virginia. SMRs, small modular reactors, are still a few years out. But if you believe that our tax money is well spent on supporting wind and solar, put that crap up there to power this stuff. Somehow a decision was made to bring all these data centers to Virginia, and I don't know if it was ignorance, greed, or what, but now we have to pay the price for this bad decision. I would like to add the fact that data centers in other areas are paying a lot of money to reopen decommissioned nuclear power plants. They are paying a lot of money to secure their own power, but here in Virginia, the taxpayer, we have to pay for them while they take our land and poison us and destroy everything we should be entitled to as Americans. According to datacenters.com, I was going to go into how many farms just recently are lost in Orange County, which is awful. Now they're going to take over 2,000 more acres. That's more farms. We're rural. We need our farms and stuff. And I'd like to also, one thing I'd like to finish is that for the younger people, what this moment is teaching them is that no matter how hard you work for the right thing, nothing you do is really yours. It can be taken away if the rich want what you have. This is a private company which is trying to use our government legally to steal things. We need to stop this from changing the Commonwealth of Virginia to the Communist Wealth of Virginia. Listen, this brings zero benefit to the communities, it brings no jobs, revenue, does not improve anything for us. Our properties and lives are not disposable. We are not collateral damage for the benefit of data centers in Northern Virginia.
Ridge Road with my husband. I am not one to get up and speak in front of people, but I am devastated and I am mad. Virginia and Orange County, our rural landscape is going to be raped by ValleyLink, and we cannot allow this. Our property, along with many others, is being threatened. Our way of life is being threatened. We built our log home, planted every blade of grass and every flower. We have lovingly taken care of our property for over 20 years. And for what? So you can destroy it? I resent that every moment has to be spent dealing with you when you've had a lot of time in preparation of this and given none of us enough time to prepare for this. I resent that. ValleyLink has been looking at our properties while we're busy working and living our lives, enjoying our land and paying our taxes. This is not a victimless project. Please do not let them destroy us and our beautiful county.
Good evening, thank you so much. My name is Cynthia Levin. I live at 202 Bellevue Avenue in the town of Orange. I've lived there for 23 years. I am 62 years old. I drove through Orange County to visit a friend who moved down this way and fell in love and stayed. I have spent the majority of my time here caring for horses that compete to the Olympic level, including London 2012 and Paris 2024. I have managed barns, and they're occupied by horses owned by the likes of Dwayne Johnson. I have a bachelor's degree in environmental studies from New Jersey. I am vehemently opposed to any of this without the equivalent of an environmental assessment to the standard of NEPA and a full environmental impact statement. And although I have been a tenant and I'm a landowner, I stand with every citizen and landowner of the county and the Commonwealth. And anyone is welcome to my dead body to plant it in your path.
Good evening, my name is Bryan. I live at 7456 Oakwood Lake Drive in Oakwood Lake Estates. One of their proposals is to go through and cut my land from one end to the other that I look at every day, and that's where their stanchions are gonna go because that's the way the land looks. And there's a nice, beautiful pond. There's a mine run. We go to Rappahannock. We go to the Chesapeake. But they don't care. They want to just put their chemicals down and let it fall into the water. So I'm here to ask you guys, really think about that, because people do live in this county and we do enjoy the wildlife that would be gone and the streams, and it's going to affect everything. If you, because I went to Richmond, and they let the grass grow this high and then they come and kill it. And it looks ugly. And this is what you're going to do to Orange County, make it an ugly place. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name is Nichol. I live at 33390 Parker Road, Locust Grove, Virginia. I apologize. I've never done anything like this. I'm a quiet, keep to myself kind of person. Unfortunately, this is unacceptable. We've heard a lot from citizens of Orange County that grew up here and lived this lifestyle. I didn't. I grew up in Northern Virginia. I and my husband ran away from the monstrosity that has become Northern Virginia. I have had the displeasure of receiving power from Dominion Energy in the past. I don't want your power lines in my land now that I don't have to deal with y'all. You're planning on putting this power line behind my back acreage. It's 15 acres of mostly wooded property. You're running through the property behind me that's over 100 acres of wooded land. You're running through my neighbor's back end of her property, which is also all wooded land. Through the property next to hers, which is all wooded land. We came to Orange County for the rural lifestyle. As you can see, I was out taking care of my child's 4-H animals because despite the fact that she doesn't have any farmers in her family lineage, she has decided that that's what she wants to do when she grows up. You have done nothing but lie at all of these meetings. You have looked us in the eye and lied. So when you say that there is no studies, I found 3 from 2022 stating that it has been linked, not definitively to child lymphoma, but enough that they need to continue to study. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Fargo with 12199 Caffeine Court. First of all, I want to thank everybody up here on the board. I think you'll ask great questions and you knock it out of the park. I'm proud of each and every one of you. We're impacted citizens. We're not here as concerned, although I'm concerned for everybody. Joe Cotton up here earlier, and you live in the same area as they do. And when he talked, they come to the side of one of our neighbors, right up to bifurcating his property, right behind Joe Cotton. It also hits my daughter's property. He lives in the dirt road right to my right. We've got 2 small farms. I'm on the left, she's on the right. I echo everybody's comments that was said earlier, so I'm going to try to talk about it a little bit different. The home prices, yes, they're going to be going down. We talked to realtors, we know that already. It is over 2,500 acres. It's not the 600 acres that was first reported that will be affected in Orange County. Behind our house, we have Terry Run. It's a spring that just pops up there. I mean, literally, 300 yards from my house. And there's river otter to go up and down there and that may not sound good, but that means it's clear, pristine water. But the otters are very careful about what water they use. That's going to be messed up when one of those lines go right behind us. You mentioned that thousands of residents in these meetings we had. I went to Lafayette Station one year. You've spoken to thousands of residents, and I was there with my daughter. I gotta commend you all. The memory capacity of your people is amazing because not one of you took a note. Not one. Lastly, I just want to point out, I'm pushing 70. I'll be at 73 years. I'm not here for myself or my wife, but I am here. Julie and Charlotte Simmons. That's my daughter, my kids. That's her.
My name is Al Newby, 7542 Hawthorne Drive. I did a little research on area transmission lines, and just, I didn't write this, but just real quick. What are the benefits? Facilitating public acceptance and reducing public opposition. Since burying the line reduces view sheds, it frequently accelerates permitting and land acquisition timelines, improving project certainty, mitigating risk. Hurricanes, storms, for example, Louisiana Hurricane Laura knocked out all 9 transmission lines, delivering power to Lake Charles. Hurricane Ida knocked out all 8 transmission lines into New Orleans, leaving the city without power for half a month. Protecting the system from geomagnetic disturbances, solar flares, or electromagnetic pulse attack significantly reduces land use impacts. Frequently, overhead lines approximately use 1/5 of the space that traditional overhead lines require. Removes the electrocution risk for birds and collision risk for small aircraft. You know, the Chinese have put up a line. It's called the Chongqing. It's 2,464 miles long, buried in the ground. Hitachi Power, 5 China is 2,000 miles long. There are two other projects going on right now in the United States. One is called Champlain Hudson Power Express. It's in New York, from Quebec down to New York. It's currently operating right now. Part of it is, it's going to be hundreds of miles long, and it's obviously, we're trying to get it done by this year, and it's underground. There's another one out in Illinois called Sioux Green, 350 miles long. Same kind of benefits. People want to see it. It reduces the impact for property values. It can be done. I think the major thing that we're seeing really is what we're saying is it's an economic thing. It's a decision made by powerful people to funnel that money to. When you look at AI, there's like 8 or 9 principal benefit companies. Those are the ones that benefit from this. Let's be real.
My name is Earl Ryder, 11435 Blackbelt Road, Warrensville. This board ripped y'all pretty good tonight, didn't it? Thank all of y'all. Virginia imports more electricity than any other state. Am I correct on that? Okay. It just makes no sense. The routing of this power line, you've got it going through, passing by the Louisa Middle School, and it's also coming down there at the elementary primary school in Locust Road. The health risk was, you had different information on the health risk. The money for the study is from your, if you ever want to find out the answer to a problem or a problem you can answer is follow the money, right? So, but anyway, instead of building this massive line, why can't you build a power station in Northern Virginia? If Charlotte's going to need another grocery store, they're not going to build it here in Orange and expect people to come in here. It's common sense. But anyway, that's all I've got to say. Thank y'all for having me.
Okay, so if we could we have numbers 41 through 60 to come down with the green flags here, and we will start with number 21. Okay, we will start with our second set of 20 speakers. Thank you all for coming down from 41 through 60. Go ahead. Hold on a second. Let me check the line.
Can you hear me?
There. Stay a little closer to that. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Sarah Mock. I live at 1681 Hunters Ridge Lane in Nichol, Virginia, Orange County. 2 routes. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I really wanted to point out something that I think is very important as a part of this community engagement that ValleyLink is offering the community. During these last few weeks, they have been encouraging people to utilize their online tools like GeoVoice, their interactive map, to provide comments. Myself, they told me at a community meeting that my home is an unmarked home on their map. And they encouraged me to go onto GeoVoice and put a comment and let them know that my home was not on their map and that was now my responsibility to tell them this. Well, lo and behold, the GeoVoice map does not accept comments. So for the last 3 weeks, it's been a known issue. I've been on the phone with folks from Dominion. I had a gentleman email me on Friday and asked me if I could set up a Teams meeting and screen share with him so I could show him why it's not working. But the comment button, it'll let you submit everything except use the submit button. But the cancel button works perfectly. So I just want to point out that while they're offering this community engagement, I don't think that we're getting the engagement that we deserve as a community as a part of this project.
Thank you, everybody. That was my wife. My name is Brandon Warren Mock. I also live at 16881 Hunters Ridge Lane. I could talk all day about these comments, like people who are trying to start a farm, who needs to eat, people who already have farms to grow things like flowers, like the bees, and the impact that they make, as you guys have all heard about. But has anybody ever looked at the words at the bottom of the Virginia flag? I think this is a good example of why they're on there. We're the home of the Bill of Rights, and it is just tyrannical. I mean, I'm sorry. I know you guys have a job to do, but the American people are constantly being sold out, and to see it happen in real time just is disgusting. So, thank you.
Culpeper, and Orange counties. These lines could affect over 100 acres of our farmland. We grow corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay. We have 400 cattle on our farm. Our son is taking over a farm, and we're very proud of it. We're generational farmers. The land is already valuable to our family, community, and country and world. Our corn provides food for the cattle and the poultry industry in the state of Virginia. Our soybeans are placed on barges and shipped around the world. Our wheat is taken to the flour mill in Culpeper. My family is proud to help feed America. I'm sure a lot of you are hungry right now, and your bellies are growling. We help feed these Americans, and I'm proud. My land is valuable. I would rather eat than have some data center have electricity. Destroying productive agricultural land hurts America and the price of food. We can't regain our farmland. We have worked hard to till and fertilize this land and make it the best yield acres as possible. If these power lines take away acres of Virginia farmland, the cost of produce and groceries will increase to all Virginians. These proposed routes take lots of farmland from all of us. Let's feed America and stop taking our farmland. Our farm is recognized by the Virginia Ag. We hosted the Virginia Ag Expo this year. Over 2,000 people came to our farm, and we represented Orange County and farmers in Virginia. We taught them what agriculture is about. We host school field trips once coming in April so we can teach the kids what their corn and soybeans and where they're grown and what they're used for. Maybe you need to know what your corn and soybeans are used for. We cannot imagine destroying our farmland. We can't give it back. Thank you so much.
My family farms about 3,000 acres, from Louisa, Spotsylvania, Culpeper, Orange. If that line comes through in one area, it's going to come 100 feet from my back porch. I don't know what the technical term is or any of the science, but we also farm underneath the 1/500,000 line that is in Orange County. If you have to get out of the tractor and combine and touch the ground, it will knock you down. There is a lot of electricity coming out of that line that comes down to those machines. We also have some more impact submitted to block ValleyLink. The proposed, these are not my comments, but these are somebody else's. The proposed path cuts directly through multiple parcels of my family-owned farm. I established a business last year after generations of holding events on site so that we would be protected from liability and can file taxes, etc. The farm of 75 acres of hardwoods and fields will be destroyed and the 7-acre lake will be polluted. The native plants and wildlife will absolutely be disrupted, including our eagles. There are all parts of the comprehensive plan under the agricultural zoning to be preserved, which is why our business is to preserve, enhance, and provide a quiet place for small events, retreats, and seasonal markets. Another one was, although the proposed routes do not cross my property, they do significantly impact my family's future. We have been farming, forestry, hunting, and trapping in Virginia since the Jamestown Colonial Colony was established in 1607. We have been actively farming and foresting off current property since 1952 and are currently raising number 5 generation here. The proposed lines across the entire width of the county, which could later spawn additional spurs. There is potential to bring this legacy to an end. I'm extremely concerned about the other family farmers whose livelihood and way of life will be impacted, and all the energy that could be powered closer to the sites that will be used. Thank you.
And I've only been here about 4.5 years. I was a city girl, and I'm just loving the country, and I wanted to stay the way it is. I have a joint letter here between a couple of my neighbors and myself I'd like to read, and it will be submitted to the SCC and the FERC as soon as that opens up. Okay, we are writing as concerned residents to express serious concerns about the proposed placement of a high voltage transmission line in close proximity to schools and residential homes in the Lake of the Woods, Virginia. While reliable energy infrastructure is important for the region, the location of such a project must carefully consider the health, safety, and well-being of the community, especially children. We stress the importance of using existing rights-of-way and burying all lines. First and foremost, placing a high-voltage transmission line near schools raises legitimate health concerns. Although research on long-term exposure to electromagnetic fields, EMFs, is ongoing, several public health organizations have recommended precautions while locating major transmission infrastructure near areas where children spend significant amount of time. Children are more vulnerable to environmental exposures because their bodies and nervous systems are still developing. Many parents and residents are understandably uneasy about prolonged exposure to EMFs generated in high voltage lines near classrooms, playgrounds, and homes. Beyond potential health concerns, there's also safety considerations. Transmission lines can present risk during severe weather events, equipment failure, or maintenance operations. Locating the infrastructure close to densely populated neighborhoods, like the Lake of the Woods, increases the number of people potentially affected by outages, falling lines, or other emergencies. School in particular requires the safe possible environments for students and staff. Additionally, the presence of large transmission corridor can negatively affect the quality of life for residents. These lines often require significant clearing of trees and vegetation, which alters the natural landscape and reduces the environmental buffers that protect neighborhoods from noise, wind, and heat. The visual impact of tall transmission towers can also diminish the character of a residential community such as the Lake of the Woods, which many families chose specifically for its natural beauty and peaceful setting. Property values are another concern. Numerous communities across the country have reported decreases in property values for homes located directly adjacent to high voltage transmission lines. For many families, their homes represent their largest financial investment. A project that potentially reduces property values could place an unfair financial burden on residents who have no role in choosing the project's location. Finally, community trust and engagement are essential in decisions of this magnitude. Residents, parents, and educators deserve meaningful input in the planning process, exploring alternative routes that keep high voltage infrastructure farther away from schools and residential areas would demonstrate a commitment to protecting both public health and community interests. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Albert Rose. I live at 31079 Rose Town Road, Loves Grove. First, thank the board and planning commission for a great job tonight. Very well done. My wife and I purchased property in 1999. It was cut over pine forest. It was undesirable for most people. We put a lot of sweat, equity, money, blood, sweat, and tears into this, and it turned it into a nice place to live. We operate a small farm there, a cow-calf operation. We have 4 pastures. This line will go directly almost over the top of one of our pastures. It will also be in our shed view, where we sit on our front porch and look at the sunset. It will impact our property significantly, value-wise, and also the beauty of it. Our property is bordered by Maguire Creek, which will have an environmental impact, also for the water table, and the wildlife, bears, deer, turkey, eagles. We see all of those. Our cattle will be affected. We don't have access to public water. We're on a well. Most of the residents in Orange County. Also, there'll be noise. I don't know if anyone's ever lived around one of these before, but we make a humming noise. I grew up behind my house. It won't impact everyone that lives near this. So, with that closing, I want to thank all the citizens that came out and to help fight this thing. I think there's other alternatives that can be, we can look at besides putting this over top of everyone's house. We're being asked to sacrifice our way of life for someone else. And I think it's more financial for that. So, everyone have a good evening.
Hey, Davies, 101 Wendy Lane, Moses Grove. Although my property won't be directly affected by this project, my heart goes out to all my neighbors who will be, and you have my support. Let's be clear, despite the slick advertising from ValleyLink, this is not about electric vehicles. This is not about population growth. This is about data centers, pure and simple. The Virginia legislature commissioned a study by JLARC about a year and a half ago. The JLARC study shows that without data center construction, electricity demand would be essentially flat through 2050. With modest data center growth, demand would double. With unconstrained growth, electricity demand would more than triple, if not more. The study further states that the fixed costs associated with generation and transmission are difficult to assign. What that means is the trillion-dollar companies won't bear the costs proportionately. All of us will. Dominion states that they're obligated to provide service to all customers who request power. What they fail to mention is that they contribute heavily to state delegates and senators, including our own, who just this session voted against bills that would have slowed this demand. So the implication that Dominion is a passive victim of increased demand that they had no say in is disingenuous. So not only are the residents going to have to bear a disproportionate amount of the costs of this project, they're left with the blighted landscape, lost land values, and potential health hazards of high voltage power lines. Orange County will not benefit one iota from this project, yet we'll have to live with the eyesores, blighting our landscape and ruining the aesthetic of our community. We urge the State Corporation Commission to find an alternative. Thank you.
Proposed one-line option takes almost 1/3 of our land, mostly woods, and passes close to our house. Another person said, we are sandwiched between both routes. We are concerned about the groundwater impact since we have a well. We are also very concerned about the frequency that will emit. We are aware of the impact of this level of frequency so close. We have 2 young children and a small homestead. Another person, I have 40 acres in Orange, and these lines will make good properties worthless. The power lines will be within 200 feet of my home. Another person, the route will go through my neighbor's yard. I will have to sell. View of power lines is not acceptable. Our neighborhood is getting together to form a group to fight this. I'll speak for myself for a moment. I've been in my family's property since '98 when I was 3 years old. I built my own house on it 5 years ago. I have 4 kids in that house now. They say there's no health impacts. Everything you read online indicates there is a link, whether it's provable or not, to childhood leukemia, up to a 69% increase if you're within 200 meters of the power line, which is where they propose to put it in relation to my house. They say that they cannot go down existing right-of-ways or beside them because that would require them to buy houses. From what I can see in Orange County, that would be about 6 houses they would have to buy. There are many more people that will have to sell and not be paid by ValleyLink to sell just to be away from this. They will make houses unlivable, uncomfortable to be in it with a family, but they will not pay you for it because it does not go directly on top of your roof. That's all I have.
My name is Marshall Drew. I live at 30140 Gate Road in Unionville. I'm a retired Army engineer and civilian engineer. A little over 8 years ago, my wife and I moved to Orange County from Northern Virginia, Big Rapids. We were blessed to find a perfect piece piece of property to build our retirement home on, off the Tatum Road. We have 33 acres there. We have woods, a fishing pond for our grandchildren and us to enjoy, and land for our home. It's our little piece of paradise after many years of living in lots of different places around the world. Some of them were good for me, some of them weren't such good places for me in the Army. This proposed transmission line goes completely through our property, from the southeast corner to the northeast corner. So it's basically a rectangle going north and south, kind of, and it cuts right through the middle of my woods, 25 acres of woods that have never been timbered, goes across the southwest portion of my pond, or fishing pond, goes across my freshwater, not well. Anyway, it goes across my pasture, takes my small storage barn, and across Tatum Road. Through proposed right-of-way is only 200 feet from our master bedroom. And when I sit on my back porch and look out across our pond, I will now be able to see, or may be able to see in the future, this beautiful power line instead of my nice tall trees. 100-year-old oak trees, other hardwoods like that, are going to disappear. They're going to be mulched up, from what I understand, instead of wall. So, my question with 19 seconds left is, I heard a statement earlier from the gentleman there that this project is in the interest of the people. My question is, how is it in my interest? How is it in our interest? Thank you.
Jean Copperthite, 30476 Zora Road. I want to voice my outrage at the proposed ValleyLink project in its entirety. It's completely fueled by corporate greed. They're literally proposing to steal our property from us, and we are paying for it. We're footing the bill for it in every way. History, my husband and I moved here in 1989. We've raised a family here. I have a small farm here. I run a business here. My husband passed away 10 years ago, and I worked really hard to continue. I've kept the farm going. I've kept the business going for 10 years. Now I have grandchildren here. My whole life is here, and it's being threatened. ValleyLink wants to route through my property front to back, destroying over 6 acres. They're coming within 400 feet of my house. This would be devastating. I don't want this line anywhere near me or my grandchildren. Like I said, I'm self-employed. I just retired in December. I get this letter in February. They're taking your life, basically. My financial security is dependent upon the very acreage that they're taking, or that they propose to take, he said. This would be catastrophic for me financially. Words cannot express the anger that I feel about this. I'm trying to maintain. I've attended 3 of their meetings. I've written to them in every form that they put out for free to use, with a lot of questions and concerns. They have not answered any of them satisfactorily. Their answers are not real answers. They're not even true. One of my main concerns is the health risks. They do exist. It's extremely troubling. What recourse will we have when our children have this childhood leukemia? Or what about us older folks that have medical devices? How is this going to affect them? These are real concerns and questions that are being bypassed. This is unacceptable. There are no studies that I've been able to find on 765 lines. This is unprecedented. It's unbelievable to think that I've spent my entire life working towards a quiet, peaceful, beautiful retirement, and now it's being threatened to be stolen from me. There's nothing about this that's good. Nothing at all. Everything about this is wrong. Thank you.
disrespect, but I'm not here to talk to you. Neighbors, fight this. If you're not involved, get involved. If you are involved, push harder. Send another letter. Tell everyone you know, particularly write the governor and legislators. Go to usda.gov/lawfare and report this evil injustice. Demand the Culpeper Board of Supervisors kick out the substation. Later in the year, when the ValleyLink project is on the SCC docket, become an interviewer there and join the group who is. Please come to a meeting in Louisa tomorrow night, where we as citizens can come up with a way to formally group up, fundraise, lawyer up, and beat this. Do not listen to the snide whispers that we can't win. With God, all things are possible, and unjustly stealing the land and fruits of the labors of hardworking citizens is a sin that cries out to the Almighty for vengeance. To you demons at ValleyLink, what you propose to do is evil. Eminent domain has a long history in this country, but it hinges on two requirements: serving a public use and victims receiving just compensation. You lying cynics would have us believe that this project serves the public use to meet the growing needs of the power grid. That without destroying our lands and our lives for your monstrous towers, there isn't enough power to go around. This is a vile lie. We both know it's to line your pockets powering Northern Virginia data centers who get billions in tax breaks from our money and require the power of 300,000 homes, even though there are only 200,000 homes in all 9 of the counties you propose to destroy. This is not public use. It's that you see dollar signs when you look at our land and view our country, our county, as a pass-through for your avaricious future growth aspirations. And as for just compensation, for most of us who stand to lose our property, there isn't a number that high. You cannot account for the loss of our home values, equity, future revenues, our children's inheritance, farmland, bees, pollination, flora, fauna, organic and pesticide-free land and water, beauty, quiet, stillness, our plans and dreams, lifestyles, health, historical sites. There is no justice in blatant, greedy theft.
Good evening, Chairman, and members of the board, members of the committee. Thank you for giving us this time to speak. My name is Juanita Roush, and I live at 10 Lane near Mine Run. I love to spend my mornings going out on my deck and listening to the birds and watching them fight with the squirrels sometimes, and in the evening, listening to the frogs and the crickets, and spending my time listening to nature. For those who don't know me, I'm deaf. I hear with BTE and a cochlear implant. I'm very concerned about how 765 kilovolt high voltage power line running right by my house is going to affect my hearing. And those of the children at the school who also, the power line will be running by them, and they depend on the same hearing devices. In researching, after being told at the Lafayette meeting that it probably wasn't going to affect me at all, I did my own research, and I found that these lines can cause audible buzzing, interference with sound processing, damage to the internal electronics, the external speech processor may malfunction or even shut down. As I don't know if you know, but only half of a cochlear implant is seen on the outside. The rest of it inside your head, and that's the part that will be affected. Hearing may come easy for most of you, and I hope it does, but for me, it's been a long and expensive process. I want to continue to hear birds and frogs and crickets. And you know what? I want you to be able to hear them too. And I'm afraid that these power lines come through, you're not going to be able to hear me.
5-story towers holding thick, noisy electric lines coming up across our state, into our yards, and into our neighborhoods. Orange County is known for our tourism, our wineries, and our beauty. Let's not bring an eyesore just to help Northern Virginia communities. These counties should have planned for a small electric power station before they put up 200 data centers into their county, which is what Loudoun County has done, and they have more planned, I understand. Here in our county, in our area and neighborhood, are endangered eagles, bats, and yellow swallowtail butterflies. Not to mention all the honeybees we have around us. And these bees have to be 20 miles away from these electric lines, which hum nonstop. And we all know how important bees are. Another major concern is the chemicals that will be put on the right-of-way to clear the brush and the grasses. These chemicals will seep into our wells, the ponds, and the streams. This causes problems we can't foresee and we may never recover from. It has been brought to my attention that ValleyLink went around Albemarle County, which is right below us. ValleyLink, knew they couldn't fight the people of Albemarle, so what do they think we are, a bunch of country bumpkins? Thanks to each of you for standing up with us, and let's give ValleyLink a big no, a hard no.
Good evening. My name is Zachary Dayton. My house is located at 32414 Indiantown Road, Locust Grove. We are at the closest point the blue and orange proposed line gets to Indiantown Road. This would put my family and neighbors living 200 to 250 feet from the largest transmission line ever to be built in Virginia. Aside from the daily visual and audio changes to the current beautiful landscape, the unknown health defects that can be caused by the line are a serious concern, especially for a young family planning to raise children in the near future. This is only part of the problem. My father recently divided a piece of his land so I could build and live out on the Rapid Ann River next to him. My in-laws bought the adjacent piece, and our goal is to have the dream situation, a family compound. All of the current proposed lines converge and pass directly through the center of mine and my in-laws' properties. If this is allowed to proceed, it will destroy any possibility of building a house on either property, rendering them useless. This will decimate my whole family's dream and negate the years of work put into making it a reality. This will also take the home value, land use, and quality of life of my parents and surrounding neighbors off of Pine River Road. If ValleyLink's plan to proceed, this for-profit venture will be robbing my family's land by both stealing our land for transmission right-of-way and by sucking the value out of what we currently own. How about y'all at ValleyLink go home, live, and raise your families under these monstrosities? You take a chance with the health risks, and then come talk to us. Please continue to take a stand, make your changes, and earn my family's thanks.
Unfortunately, this proposed transmission line has completely upended our plans by greatly impacting both properties that we own in Locust Grove. In 2023, my husband and I got married and built our first home on Indiantown Road. One of the proposed grounds is approximately 250 feet in front of our home and would yield us little to no tree covering, but have potentially dangerous impacts on our health and well-being. This proposed route would also be detrimental to our property value, which is devastating to us as a young couple trying to build our financial future. We also have multiple neighbors who are greatly impacted on Indiantown and Woodville Road. To add to our devastation, in late 2025, my in-laws did a family subdivision of 11 acres of their Rapid Ann Riverfront property on Pine River Road for us to build our forever home there. My parents purchased the adjacent 10-acre property around the same time to build their dream home. This is our dream to raise mine and my husband's future children next to their grandparents. All three proposed proposed routes converge down the center of mine and my parents' properties to cross the Rappahannock River into Culpeper. This renders ours and my parents' properties unbuildable. This proposed transmission line completely decimates everything we have worked for as a family and will cause great harm to our well-being, our property values, and to our neighbors along Pine River Road. We are gravely concerned for our environment and our critical water resource of the Rappahannock River. We are also concerned for the wildlife that inhabits these properties and most of Orange County. These monstrous transmission lines have no place in Orange County. We vehemently oppose the Joshua Falls to Ute transmission line. We will continue to show up and speak our opposition for the good of our family and our neighbors. Thank you.
My name is John Conway. I live at 6701 Harris Lane, Orange. Thank the Lord for letting us have this opportunity. High voltage lines, which are being proposed here, have significant environmental impacts, primarily causing habitat fragmentation, wildlife disruption, especially avian like birds, hawks, eagles, and visual land use alterations. Key impacts include greenhouse gas emissions from insulated equipment, soil erosion, and fire risk of vegetation, clearing often affecting biodiversity and local ecosystems along the right of way. Habitat destruction and fragmentation of clearing and maintenance of right of ways, corridors leading to permanent removal of trees, loss of biodiversity, and disruption of plant communities. Wildlife injury and mortality, large high voltage lines pose major collision risk to birds and mammals, as well as electrocution hazards for birds landing on towers, which happens a lot. Greenhouse gas emissions, high voltage equipment often uses sulfur hexafluoride. A potent greenhouse gas can leak from equipment during maintenance or aging. Fire risk, above ground power lines can spark and ignite surrounding vegetation. Soil and water impacts, construction causes soil compaction, which leads to increased erosion and changes in local hydrology. Visual and aesthetic damage. Tall towers and lines cause significant visual changes to landscape, impacting natural areas and lowering property values. Invasive species. Disruption of soil and cleared corridors often allow for the spread of invasive plants. And I will say one thing. The lady was up here earlier, she was pretty adamant about protest and getting people involved is important. I will remind people, remember the Atlantic Coast Pipeline? I don't know if you know what that was, but it was a David and Goliath project. The Indians said they were going to build it. It didn't happen. And so if we stick together, move forward, we can stop this.
Hello, my name is Campbell County. I live at 6164 Maguire Drive. This project is a tremendous transfer of wealth from private citizens to a public monopoly with the acquisition of all these lands. At the meeting in Unionville, one of the Dominion representatives mentioned that the cartels, they're just meeting demand, and he inadvertently compared Dominion to the cartels in doing so. And with how they're trying to roll out this project, keeping the community in the dark, representatives trying to do it as quickly as possible so that we can have a chance to respond in a meaningful manner, fight, whatever we need to do. So as individuals, we just need to do everything we can to slow down the process, to not comply with them, to not let them on their lands. Every day we do that costs them more money, and that's the only thing they know. Each house on their route is just a statistic to them, and each of those statistics needs to start costing them more money. One of the representatives mentioned about how sometimes you have to sacrifice something for the greater good. I never thought that would truly manifest as one of my neighbor's houses potentially being demoed to supply the energy to data centers. To me, that's almost incomprehensible how you can even equate that to being for the common good. Because most people I talk to aren't in favor of the data centers, they aren't in favor of AI. Even the representatives from ValleyLink said they weren't in favor of the data centers or AI.
a child from her video games that wants to go with you to go hunting and make memories. And now, when you get there, your property, you start hearing noise, high voltage lines that obstructs you when you're trying to have that quiet time with the child, creating memories. You're out there working, sweating, day and night, all night long. You don't even come home for dinner or lunch, your wife brings it to you. You have a piece of time, like that be. Now they're gonna disrupt it with high voltage lines. I noticed y'all was saying where they wasn't giving y'all the information that y'all needed. You're not doing it. Me as a resident. 2 weeks ago, I sent them an opposition letter. The main cover said, let me know when you get this. I've sent one every other day since then and have heard nothing. So you need this in our community. Once they get in, it appears to me that they're fast tracking everybody. That way they can blindside you and catch you off guard. That way they can get their way. You're not benefiting us in Orange County. They're padding their pockets. And I don't need my pockets padded by them. You hear them say take their first offer when they come to your land. Or if you don't, they'll take it eminent domain. My land's priceless. And I'm speaking not only myself, everybody in Orange County.
Were you number 40, sir? Was your number 40? Yes, I think 39 did not show. Okay, so thank you all, 21 through 40. Appreciate that. And now we're going to move. So while we're getting organized here, let's move 61 to 80 down to our yellow flag. Jimmy. 61 to 80, and then we'll get them coming up real quick here.
I'm hoping a lot of 40 left.
Let's continue on. We brought 61 through 80 down, so we're going to start with number 41. Number 41. Thank you, sir.
My name is John DiPasquale. I live at 30267 Old Office Road in Locust Road. My wife and I purchased our first home 4.5 years ago in this county. We have worked 21 hard, long years to get where we are. We have 2 daughters. We love the farmland around us, the farm across from us, the farm to the right of us, the farm above us. The proposed transmission line will be running through 9-1 Creek at the bottom of our property, 200 to 300 yards below open property. We feel that government just wants to take a dividend. And my question to the gentleman here is, how would you feel you work all your life, work hard for something? Would you like somebody to just come in and take what you worked hard for? I don't. The citizens of this county don't. I'm sorry, you're wrong. We don't want you, you need to go. Thank you, and God bless.
Melina Downs, I live at 7663 Golddale Road. I just want to say, first of all, thank you guys for this opportunity to share our stories. We really appreciate it. My husband and I were both raised in Orange County. We moved back here 15 years ago to raise our family, and we chose the perfect location. It's right between It's between both of our parents, and we've built a life that we love here. We raised animals, we kept gardens, our kids have grown up in 4-H and sports. 10 years ago, I began teaching in Orange County Public Schools. We've worked really hard to give our children the same kind of childhoods that we got to have. The third route will affect us the most. It places the power lines less than a mile from our home, close enough to affect us, but not close enough for our property to be purchased. This leaves us in a difficult position. Our property value will decline, and 160-foot towers will dominate our landscape. There is also environmental concerns. Vegetation under these lines is typically controlled with chemicals, which can seep into groundwater. We rely on well water, so this directly affects our family. Research on EMS suggests potential risks to livestock, plants, and human health. At the very least, it raises serious concerns that we cannot ignore. If this plan moves forward, we will be left watching the life we built, our home, our investment, and our hopes for the future slowly diminish. Thank you.
Evening, Richie Ferreira, 16349 Grass Lane here in Orange. At the start of the meeting, Brandon basically said that they're going to be listening, learning, and incorporating feedback. I truly hope that you guys do that after the scene, as well as through the other counties. Also, you said that this is sort of a transformational time that we're in. I agree. It could very well be incredibly transformational from Dominion's perspective as far as the profit margin moving forward. Should it go through? There was discussion as far as doing HVDC or HVDC versus HVAC, so burying the line. Obviously, your purse can tolerate that additional expense versus all the residents here in Orange and the surrounding counties. What you stand to gain in the course of the decades with the power being transferred to Northern Virginia and forward, will more than cover the expense. And certainly will allow all of these people not to incur